Chapter 1. Stop pretending. Late at night, in the Hawthorne Villa by the sea, Evelyn Lancaster had just finished her shower. She changed into a new set of pajamas she'd bought, looked in the mirror, and felt something was still missing. She took out a bottle of perfume she rarely used and spritzed a little on herself. Damien Hawthorne was already asleep. She tiptoed to the bed and gently wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. But the next second, she was forcefully pushed away. The room was pitch black, but Damien's hurtful gaze felt like a branding iron searing right through her. "What do you think you're doing?" Evelyn froze, her voice trembling. "Damien, I want to have a child with you." Damien's voice was as cold as ice, chilling and merciless. "I told you on our wedding day, don't ever covet what doesn't belong to you." A deep chill instantly spread through her, leaving her numb. 3 years, he hadn't touched her once. Even when she humbled herself like this, casting aside all her dignity to beg him, he couldn't have cared less. In the end, she didn't know how she made it back to her own room. The moment she lay down, tears burst forth like a broken dam. Her husband had never loved her. He had only married her to spite his first love, the one that got away, who had left for another country. Even knowing the truth, she had married him without a second thought, because she loved Damien Hawthorne. She believed that one day he would be moved by her devotion. But it seemed Damien's heart was one she truly couldn't warm. After a sleepless night, Evelyn rose at the crack of dawn. She went to the kitchen and began preparing breakfast. Although they had staff, she didn't want to entrust Damien's meals to anyone else. But when she had finished preparing breakfast and set the table, she learned that Damien had left long ago. Evelyn felt a hollow ache in her chest. She bit her lip, put on a nonchalant expression as she arranged the breakfast, and then started simmering a chicken soup. She planned to deliver it to the Hawthorne group in person that afternoon. Just as she lit the stove, a maid hurried over with a picture. "Mrs. Hawthorne, the madam says she's taken a fancy to a limited edition jewelry set and wants you to go buy it immediately." Evelyn glanced at the photo and quickly wiped her hands on her apron. "All right, I'll go right away." She rushed out the door, terrified that a delay would mean failing to buy the necklace and upsetting her mother-in-law. Inside the luxury jewelry store, it took Evelyn a while to find the piece Beatrice had her eye on. Her eyes lit up with joy as she stared at the necklace in the display case. She waved at the shop assistant. "Hello, could you please take that necklace out for me to have a look?" The shop assistant sized her up, her gaze filled with disdain. "Miss, this necklace is a piece by the renowned designer Jean Antoine. It's quite expensive. Are you sure you want to see it?" Evelyn frowned in embarrassment. After 3 years of marriage to Damien, she had become the very picture of an ordinary housewife. She hadn't even changed her clothes before leaving, and the apron was still tied around her waist. She looked as disheveled as one could be. The other customers, in contrast, were wealthy socialites dripping with gold and diamonds, impeccably dressed. No wonder the assistant looked down on her. She smoothed her hair, her voice a little weaker. "Yes, I'm sure." The assistant's expression soured even more. She reluctantly took the necklace from the case and slammed it onto the counter. "You can look, but don't touch." Then she turned to her colleague and started complaining. "Some country bumpkin from who knows where. Can't afford it but has to pretend she's a big shot. Look at that riff-raff. I can smell the kitchen fumes on her from across the counter." It's suffocating. Evelyn's face burned with humiliation. She was about to pull her bank card from her pocket to buy the necklace when she found it empty. Damn it, in her rush to leave, she had forgotten her wallet. She pulled out her phone and called Damien. "Damien, could you bring me some money?" The voice on the other end was cold and heartless. "I'm in a meeting, don't call unless it's important." Chapter 2, Are you done playing around? The line went dead, leaving her standing awkwardly at the counter. The shop assistant couldn't help but sneer. "Stop pretending. If you don't have the money, don't come to a place like this to embarrass yourself. Have you looked in a mirror? Does a necklace like this really suit you?" Evelyn was furious, but she was helpless. She had never been good with words. Even when speaking to Damien at home, she often struggled to express herself. She turned and pushed the door open to leave. Behind her, the disgusted shop assistant grabbed a bottle of perfume from under the counter and sprayed it vigorously where she had been standing. "It stinks, it stinks." Evelyn's face was beet red. She could only quicken her pace. Once she reached the street outside the mall, Evelyn let out a heavy sigh. The necklace was the specific one her mother-in-law, Beatrice, had demanded. Failing to buy it today meant another lecture when she got home. As she stood there, hesitating, a black Bugatti suddenly pulled up in front of her. The door opened, and a line of bodyguards in black suits stood neatly by the car. The man in the lead had an exceptionally commanding presence. Upon seeing Evelyn, he bowed respectfully. "Miss Lancaster, the president says you've been out playing for 3 years. It's time to come home." It was Alistair's man. Evelyn took a few nervous steps back, glaring at the man in black. "You tell my brother I'm not going back. Damien hasn't fallen in love with me yet. I'm not going back." With that, she ignored the calls from behind her and ran off. 3 years ago, she had hidden her identity as a wealthy heiress to marry into the Hawthorne family. She had made a pact with her 6 brothers. If, at the end of 3 years, Damien still hadn't fallen in love with her, she would obediently return to the Lancaster family. She never expected that with 3 months still left, her eldest brother would already be sending people to get her. Returning to the Hawthorne estate, Evelyn had just pushed open the main door when a glass cup came flying at her, hitting her so hard she saw stars. "You finally decided to show your face?" Evelyn clutched her swelling forehead, looking at Beatrice in confusion. "Mother, what's wrong?" Beatrice's face was a mask of fury. She shot her a venomous glare. "You have the nerve to ask what's wrong. Did you deliberately leave the gas on to try and poison me? If the maid hadn't found it in time, you would have killed me." Evelyn froze. Only then did she remember the pot of chicken soup she had been simmering before she left, planning to take it to Damien at his company that afternoon. The boiling soup must have extinguished the flame, causing the gas to leak. "I'm so sorry, Mother. I forgot I had the soup on. I didn't do it on purpose." Beatrice's face turned livid with rage. She pointed a shaking finger at the door. "Get out, go kneel outside, and don't you dare get up without my permission." Being forced to kneel in front of the maids was an immense humiliation. Tears of grievance welled up in Evelyn's eyes. "Mother, I really didn't mean to. It was you who had Mrs. Peterson tell me to go buy the jewelry. I was in a rush, and that's why I forgot to turn off the stove." Her words only enraged Beatrice further. "So you're blaming me now?" Just as the standoff reached its peak, the front door swung open and Damien strode in, his long legs moving with a cold purpose. He saw Evelyn standing in the hall, her clothes damp, her forehead slightly red. He couldn't help but frown slightly. "What's going on?" Evelyn looked up at him with misty eyes, so overwhelmed with grievance that she didn't know what to say. Seeing Damien, Beatrice immediately launched into a dramatic complaint. "It's this pauper of a wife you married. She's trying to kill me. I told her to kneel as punishment." And she had the audacity to talk back. Damien's handsome face contorted, a chilling aura radiating from him. He glanced at Evelyn, his voice cold and carrying an authority that brooked no refusal. "Since you were in the wrong, if Mother wants you to kneel, then you kneel." Chapter 3. Never loved. Even though she knew Damien wouldn't defend her, hearing the words from his own mouth still made her heart ache as if it were splitting apart. Rain began to fall outside. Evelyn knelt alone by the door, letting the wind and rain soak her. She could still hear Beatrice's voice drifting from inside. "I just get so angry every time I see that riff-raff. Tell me, our Hawthorne family is so powerful and wealthy. Why did you have to marry a woman so far beneath our station? That spineless wimp, how can she even compare to Sylvia? She's not even fit to lick her boots. If you ask me, you should just hurry up and divorce her. I'll arrange for you to meet some other real heiresses." Through it all, Damien didn't say another word. The wind was biting, lashing at her face like a knife, but the pain was nothing compared to the agony in her heart. In the 3 years she had been married to him, she had strived to be a good wife and a good daughter-in-law, yet she could never seem to please them. To outsiders, she was the fairytale wife who had married into a wealthy family, a sparrow turned phoenix. But only she knew that in the Hawthorne home, she was treated worse than a maid. At this point, she no longer knew if her persistence had any meaning. The voices from the living room gradually faded. She used the wall to pull herself up, a wave of dizziness washing over her. She took a moment to recover before dragging her exhausted body upstairs. She slept heavily that night and was woken the next morning by a maid pounding on her door. She struggled to get up and open it. The maid glared at her impatiently. "My goodness, Mrs. Hawthorne, do you know what time it is?" The madam said a distinguished guest is arriving today, and you need to get downstairs to welcome them immediately. A distinguished guest? Evelyn didn't dare delay. She quickly washed up, changed into a light-colored dress, and prepared to go downstairs. In the living room, Beatrice was already impeccably dressed and seated on the sofa. Before Evelyn even reached the bottom of the stairs, she could hear peals of her mother-in-law's laughter. "You're so sweet with your words, but no matter how well I take care of myself, my skin can't compare to yours. Oh my, you even brought me skincare products from France." How thoughtful. Evelyn looked in the direction of the voice and saw a stunningly beautiful young woman sitting next to Beatrice. When she got a clear look at the woman's face, her heart seemed to skip a beat, and she froze in place. It was Sylvia Ross, Damien's first love. She was back. She had seen that face countless times in the photo in Damien's wallet. So even though this was the first time they had met, she recognized her instantly. She was breathtakingly beautiful. Her delicate features, with just a touch of makeup, were enough to be strikingly gorgeous. Damien was sitting right beside her, his gaze tender as they smiled at each other, making Evelyn feel like a complete outsider. When he saw her, Damien's smile vanished, replaced by the same cold expression he always wore for her. "Sylvia has returned from abroad and will be staying with us for a while. You go make the arrangements." Was he giving her an order? Bringing his ex-girlfriend into their home without her consent? The situation was beyond ridiculous. She shook her head. "I don't agree." "What right do you have to disagree?" Beatrice shot to her feet, incensed. "You didn't bring a single cent of dowry when you married into the Hawthorne family, so who are you to put on airs now? This is our house, we'll have whoever we want stay here." Sylvia glanced at Evelyn's pale face and quickly stood up to smooth things over. "It's all right, I can leave." The next second, Damien reached out, grabbed her wrist, and sat her back down on the sofa. He looked coldly at Evelyn, his gaze like a blade of ice stabbing into her chest. "If you're not willing, then let's get a divorce." Evelyn's body trembled slightly, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. She looked at Damien, unwilling to give up. "Damien, in these 3 years, have you ever felt even a flicker of affection or love for me?" Damien's stern face remained impassive. He slowly shook his head, and every word he spoke pushed Evelyn into a bottomless abyss. Never. 5 years of ardent, devoted love were utterly extinguished in that single moment. She could no longer deceive herself. She finally admitted it. Damien Hawthorne would never love her. The moment Sylvia returned, she should have understood. It was time for her, the supporting character, to exit the stage. Evelyn nodded. "Fine. Let's get a divorce." Chapter 4. Welcome home. After saying that, she turned without hesitation and went upstairs to pack her bags. She couldn't stand to be in this house for another minute. Beatrice's mocking voice followed her. "Good riddance, I've been waiting for this day. With a jinx like her out of the Hawthorne family, we should pop some champagne to celebrate." Evelyn didn't look back. She had brought nothing with her when she arrived, and she wouldn't take a single cent from the Hawthorne family when she left. After finding her documents and putting them in her bag, she quickly went downstairs. Seeing Evelyn again, Beatrice shot her an irritated glance, which then fell coldly on the bag over her shoulder. "You were rummaging around upstairs for so long, looking for jewelry, were you? After all, with your status, you'll never be able to afford jewelry in this lifetime." Evelyn's lips curved into a cold smile. She held her bag out to her. "You can check it. I've already taken off the wedding ring and left it on the table. Apart from my documents, I haven't taken anything." For some reason, seeing Evelyn agree to the divorce so readily made Damien's chest feel tight, as if a stone were lodged there. The heavy, stuffy feeling was deeply unsettling. He pushed away the bag Evelyn offered, his handsome face twisting into a knot, his cool voice taking on an even colder edge. "That's not necessary. I'll have my assistant send you the divorce agreement. How much alimony do you want? Is $10 million enough?" A bitter sorrow filled Evelyn's heart. The Lancaster family's standing in the capital was immense. When had she ever been short of money? Only the Hawthorns would think that she, Evelyn Lancaster, was a pauper. She shook her head. Beatrice's expression immediately changed. "What do you mean? How much more do you want? I'm warning you, don't be greedy. For someone of your caliber, I'd say even $10,000 is too much." Evelyn lifted her gaze, looking straight at Damien. "I'll leave with nothing. I don't want a single cent." "Leave with nothing?" Damien's brows furrowed deeply. What was she trying to prove now? After 3 years as a housewife with no means of supporting herself, did she want to end up on the streets? Beside them, Sylvia chimed in. Miss Lancaster, you should take the money. It's not easy for a woman on her own. Besides, Damien will only feel at ease if you accept it. Sylvia's words disgusted her. She shot a sharp, disdainful glance at her. Don't you worry, Miss Ross. Even if I were penniless, I wouldn't stoop to breaking up someone else's family. Her retort left Sylvia speechless and embarrassed. Damien was even more surprised. The usually docile and obedient Evelyn could be so sharp-tongued. His eyes flashed with anger, and his next words were merciless. You'd better not regret this, Evelyn turned away coldly. Don't worry, I will have no regrets. With that, she pushed open the door and walked out without a second thought. Once she reached the main road outside the villa complex, she took out her phone and dialed a familiar number. When the call connected, her tears finally broke free. Alistair, I want to come home. On the other end of the line, Alistair Lancaster sat at the president's desk of Apex Conglomerate, his handsome face grim and cold. After comforting Evelyn, he immediately took out his phone and sent a message to a group chat. Little Seven is coming back. Everyone, let's go pick her up now. The group chat instantly erupted with responses. Ethan Lancaster, Roger Leo Lancaster, Roger Elliot Lancaster, Roger Caleb Lancaster, Roger Miles Lancaster. Roger 20 minutes later, a Lincoln as black and shiny as obsidian appeared at the end of the road. It was followed by a fleet of dozens of top-of-the-line Ferrari sports cars of various colors and models, serving as its escort. The cars stopped smoothly in front of Evelyn. The doors opened, revealing 6 extraordinarily handsome and distinguished faces. Little one, you're finally willing to come home? Chapter 5. The heiress returns no matter how strong she was in front of others. When she saw her brothers, she was still the little girl who could be spoiled. Evelyn threw herself into Miles Lancaster's arms, her small face streaked with tears. Brothers, why are you all here? She and Miles were close in age, so they had the best relationship. Her eldest brother, Alistair Lancaster, was in charge of all the industries under the Lancaster banner. He was decisive and ruthless in the business world. The mere mention of his name commanded respect. Her second brother, Ethan Lancaster, was an ace pilot for a major airline. Her third brother, Leo Lancaster, had entered the entertainment industry at 15 and was now a famous, top-tier movie star. Her fourth brother, Elliot Lancaster, was a renowned lawyer with his own firm, who also served as the legal counsel for the Lancaster family's businesses. Her fifth brother, Caleb Lancaster, had built his own successful company abroad, which now collaborated with Apex Conglomerate, showing shades of Alistair's business acumen. Her little bro, Miles Lancaster, was a brilliant hacker who had never revealed his true identity to the public. The Lancaster family was one of the most powerful and respected in the capital. A company like the Hawthorne Group was nothing in comparison. Damien Hawthorne could never have imagined that the pauper his family looked down on was the treasured heiress of the Lancaster family. Miles opened his laptop, his long fingers flying across the keyboard. A moment later, he looked up confidently. Done, Evelyn looked at him, confused. Little bro, what did you do? Miles gave a mysterious smile. Just hacked the nearby surveillance, that's all. I'd rather not have certain people know my sister's whereabouts. When the others learned what Evelyn had endured over the years, the car erupted. Her brothers were all fuming, clenching their fists, wishing they could tie up that scoundrel Damien Hawthorne and teach him a lesson right then and there. The only daughter of the Lancaster family, their precious treasure they had doted on since childhood, had been treated like this. The thought alone was enough to make their blood boil. That bastard mistaking a pearl for a fisheye, he'll live to regret this. Alistair, you have to hit him where it hurts in the business world, bankrupt him immediately. Everyone was talking at once, except for Alistair. His gaze was heavy as he looked at Evelyn, his voice steady and cool. Do you see your mistake now? Alistair's stare sent a chill down her spine. Growing up, he was the brother she feared the most. Despite his exceptionally handsome face, he was stern and old-fashioned. When she was a child and refused to eat, the maids only had to say that the young master was back, and she would immediately sit at the table and obediently shovel food into her mouth. So now, seeing that serious look in Alistair's eyes, how could she dare not admit her fault? I was wrong. The other brothers wanted to plead for her, but one look at Alistair's face and they sheepishly closed their mouths. Alistair was silent for a long moment before finally reaching out and gently patting her head. "It's good that you're back. No more willfulness. Starting tomorrow, you'll come work with me at Apex Conglomerate." The thought of working under his watchful eye made Evelyn's head spin. Miles stepped in to smooth things over. "All right, big bro Al, little Seven just got back. How about we all have dinner at the Whispering Pavilion tonight to welcome her home properly?" Everyone agreed, and the driver took them directly to the Whispering Pavilion. At the entrance, Evelyn realized she had forgotten her jacket. She told her brothers to go in first while she went back to the car to get it. Just as she retrieved her jacket and was about to head inside, someone called out to her from behind. She turned around and saw Damien, Sylvia, and Beatrice standing before her. Chapter 6. A complicated relationship. Seeing Damien, Evelyn was momentarily dazed. Even though she knew she had drawn a clear line between them, seeing him again still sent pangs of pain through her heart. Beatrice strode forward furiously, pointing a finger at her nose. "I have never seen such a shameless person. What, are you following us all the way here now?" Evelyn was taken aback, then realized Beatrice had misunderstood. The thought was both infuriating and laughable. In her eyes, just how low could a person sink? Beatrice's sharp, cutting words continued to ring in her ears. "You personally agreed to the divorce and to leave with nothing. Are you trying to go back on your word now?" She glanced at Damien. He was dressed in a casual black outfit today, simple yet composed. Sylvia stood by his side, and they did look like a perfect match. Beatrice's words couldn't hurt her, but the sight of Damien and Sylvia together truly wounded her heart. Noticing her lingering, reluctant gaze, Beatrice's internal alarms went off. She gave Evelyn a hard shove. "What are you looking at? Are you still trying to cling to our Damien? Let me tell you, as soon as your divorce is finalized, Damien is getting engaged to Sylvia. Even if you begged to come back to the Hawthorne family now, it would be impossible. Look at yourself. How can you compare to Sylvia? She comes from a privileged family, studied abroad, and is 1,000 times better than you. If you know what's good for you, get lost." Evelyn sneered inwardly. Just as she was about to retort, a familiar, handsome figure suddenly stepped between them, pulling her slightly into his embrace. "Let's go in. They're waiting for you to order." She looked up into Miles's deep, vast eyes and simply nodded without a word. Led by a waiter, the two of them walked directly towards the VIP room at the back. Beatrice stood by, her eyes wide with shock. The Whispering Pavilion was one of the capital's top Chinese restaurants. Not only was it expensive, but reservations were also required well in advance. How could someone like Evelyn afford to eat here? Behind her, Damien's face had turned ashen the moment he saw Miles. Sylvia chose that moment to whisper, "That man just now was dressed impeccably. He seems to have quite a background. Miss Lancaster looks so intimate with him. It doesn't seem like they just met." Beatrice chimed in. "I knew she was no good. She's already latched onto a new connection this quickly. Who knows if she was already fooling around with this man during her marriage?" The fire in his brow instantly blazed hotter. What a piece of work, that Evelyn Lancaster. She had agreed to a divorce 1 minute and was in another man's arms the next, and to think he had felt a shred of guilt towards her. Now it seemed completely unnecessary. Inside the VIP room at the Whispering Pavilion, Miles didn't mention the encounter with Damien to the others. He just kept his head down, focused on something on his laptop. Evelyn tried to sneak a peek, but he playfully blocked her view. Company secrets, little kids shouldn't be nosy. Evelyn couldn't help but glare at him. Only her brothers still treated her like a child. That night, back at the Hawthorne estate, Damien's brow furrowed involuntarily whenever he recalled the scene he had witnessed earlier. When had his plain, honest wife gotten to know such a distinguished man? And he had been kept completely in the dark. At that thought, he found himself walking toward Evelyn's room. Chapter 7. The room didn't have many things, but it was impeccably neat. She really had taken nothing with her. The wedding ring sat quietly in a corner of the desk. Next to it was a beautifully wrapped box. Damien walked over and opened it. Inside was a finely crafted watch that looked quite valuable. There was also a card in the box. "Damien, happy birthday," a jolt went through his chest. He only then remembered that his birthday was less than a week away. This was a gift she had prepared for him in advance. but she had been a housewife in the Hawthorne home for 3 years. She had arrived with nothing, and the money on the bank card he gave her was untouched when she left. Where did she get the money for this? Countless doubts swirled in his chest, making him extremely agitated. Damien walked to the window and lit a cigarette, his long fingers tightening around the card, crumpling it in his palm. He then picked up his phone and called his assistant. "I need you to run a background check on someone." He received a call back shortly after. His assistant's voice sounded nervous on the other end. "Sir, all of Mrs. Hawthorne's personal information has been completely erased. There's not a single trace to be found. Do you happen to have a photo of her? Perhaps I could try a reverse image search." Damien's frown deepened. All her information erased, as if she had never existed. How did he not know Evelyn had such capabilities? A photo, Damien pondered. In 3 years of marriage, he didn't have a single picture of Evelyn. They had registered their marriage hastily and hadn't even taken wedding photos. He walked out of the room, his mind in turmoil, and ran right into Sylvia, who was rushing towards him with a laptop. "Damien, something's happened." Sylvia thrust the laptop in front of him. "The news suddenly broke about your divorce, and it's saying I was the other woman who wrecked your marriage. The negative press is exploding, and now netizens are boycotting all of the Hawthorne Group's products." Damien's face darkened. He took the laptop and scrolled through the screen. The 2 words "to timing get" immediately jumped out at him. He, Damien Hawthorne, was a prominent figure in the capital. Which media outlet had the audacity to publish such a malicious and slanderous story about him without his permission? As he scrolled down, he discovered another set of explosive photos. The subject of the photos was Sylvia, seen cavorting with various men. The pictures were shockingly provocative. Noticing the change in Damien's expression, Sylvia followed his gaze. When she saw the content, her face instantly turned deathly pale. "That's not real, Damien," Sylvia's voice trembled. "These photos are photoshopped. Someone is trying to frame me, you know me. For all these years, you've been the only man for me." A dark glint flickered in Damien's eyes. He looked at the woman before him, so pitiful yet so composed, and the wavering scale in his heart finally tipped in her favor. "I believe you." He should believe her. They had known each other for so many years. He knew what kind of person Sylvia was. In contrast, he didn't know Evelyn at all. Chapter 8. None of your business. Seeing that Damien didn't doubt her, Sylvia secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She looked at the news article and muttered to herself, "Right now, only Miss Lancaster knows about the divorce. Could she have sold the story to the press to get back at us? Even if we were in the wrong, she can't use such dirty tricks to slander me." At the mention of Evelyn, Damien's chest felt as if it were being crushed by a giant rock. He picked up his phone and called his assistant. "What's going on with the news today? Tell the PR department to get this story buried within 10 minutes. The assistant's voice trembled on the other end of the line. "Sir, the media outlets are saying their systems were hacked. They won't be able to restore them until tomorrow morning at the earliest." Damn it, a full day on the trending topics list would make this known to the entire city. He stared out the window with a dark expression. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a new text message. He unlocked the screen. A message from an unknown number popped up. "Mr. Hawthorne, City Hall, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Please don't be late." Damien's face was ashen. He tore the crumpled birthday card into tiny pieces. The next afternoon, Evelyn arrived at City Hall early. Damien, who was usually punctual, was late. Neither of them said much. They went through the procedures mechanically, and just like that, their 3-year marriage came to an end. From beginning to end, Evelyn never once looked at him. As they were leaving City Hall, Damien suddenly called out to her. "What is your relationship with that man?" Evelyn's breath hitched, and she stopped in her tracks. "None of your business." "None of his business." Damien's voice grew colder. "And the headlines last night? That was your doing, wasn't it?" She quickly recalled the photos Miles had furtively shown her last night and had a good idea of what had happened. A cold smile touched her lips. She didn't turn around. So what if it was? Her little bro, Miles, had done it without telling her. He was the most protective of them all. He had seen Damien and Sylvia acting intimately the day before and had spent the entire ride home fuming about them. Damien's voice came from behind her, laced with ice. "Evelyn, are you always this unscrupulous to get what you want? I think you owe Sylvia an apology." She frowned in annoyance. a wave of nausea rising in her stomach as if she'd swallowed a fly. So, in his mind, Sylvia was a pure and innocent white lotus, while she was not only of lowly birth but also malicious and fond of slander. 3 years of living together, of pouring her heart out every single day, had all become a joke. Evelyn turned around, her expression impassive, her eyes filled with deep disdain. "We are divorced now. For you to ask me for an apology, who do you think you are?" Without waiting for a reply, she turned her back on Damien's thunderous expression. "By the way, Mr. Hawthorne, I wish you and Sylvia a long and happy life together." With those final words, she strode away without looking back. When she returned to the villa in the heart of the capital city, she had just stepped inside when her eyes widened in shock at the sight of the lavishly decorated living room. Welcome home, Chapter 9. The secret her 5 brothers, all except Alastair, stood by the door with broad smiles, presenting gifts to her as if they were treasures. "Our little 7 has suffered. From now on, no one will dare to bully you again." Evelyn wasn't moved by the heartwarming scene. Instead, she looked at the gaudy decorations on the wall with a sense of dread. This is bad, so bad. Big Bro is going to have a fit when he comes home and sees what you've done to the living room. Leo stepped forward with a smile and put an arm around her. "Don't worry, Alastair just looks serious, but he dotes on you the most." "Exactly," Miles chimed in. "Big Bro has specially arranged a ball to welcome you home. All the top business tycoons from the capital's high society will be there, and at the ball, he's going to announce a major decision." She looked at the others, confused. "What decision?" They exchanged a knowing smile. "You'll find out then." The banquet prepared by Apex Conglomerate was unprecedented in its grandeur, held at the most luxurious venue in the city, the Marguerite Hotel. A red carpet stretched for miles, flanked by endless fresh flowers, and the array of luxury cars on site was staggering. The Lancaster family had always kept a low profile. Now that they were hosting such a grand event, who in the city's high society would dare not show them face? The Hawthorns were also on the invitation list. Beatrice had spent a long time preparing for this banquet. "Damien, I heard Apex is hosting this banquet to build momentum for the president's sister, who has just returned from studying abroad. It seems this Lancaster heiress is quite the treasure. Now that you're divorced from that pauper Evelyn, maybe you should." Although Sylvia's background was decent compared to the Lancaster heiress, it was the difference between clouds and mud. If the Hawthorne family could establish a connection with the Lancasters, it would be nothing but beneficial for them. Hearing Beatrice's words, Damien frowned in annoyance. He had no interest in these banquets, and his mind was a mess because of Evelyn. Besides, he had just gotten divorced. How could he possibly turn around and try to meet the Lancaster heiress? Seeing his displeasure, Beatrice didn't press the matter and went off to mingle with the other wealthy socialites, a wine glass in hand. The women gathered together, admiring the Lancaster sons who had already arrived, and couldn't help but exclaim, "Old Mr. Lancaster is so blessed. His sons are not only handsome, one more than the next, but they're also all incredibly capable. But the most blessed has to be the Lancaster heiress. If I had so many handsome and rich brothers, I'd die of happiness." Beatrice glanced over and couldn't help but mutter to herself that, when it came to looks, her son Damien was certainly no slouch. She had no interest in joining their fawning. After a couple of glasses of champagne, she spotted a familiar figure in a corner. Evelyn, that ghost, just wouldn't go away. How did that pauper manage to follow them here? Beatrice stormed over, slamming her wine glass down on the table in front of her. "Evelyn, what kind of trick are you trying to pull now?" Chapter 10. A grand entrance Evelyn had just arrived at the venue with Leo. However, given his celebrity status, he was immediately swarmed by a wall of cameras the moment he appeared. She had no choice but to go inside first and wait for her other brothers to arrive. She never expected that in just that short time, she would run into someone she desperately wanted to avoid. She lifted her eyes slightly, glanced at the person before her, and then coldly turned her head away. Her blatant disregard sent Beatrice into a fury. She glared at Evelyn. "Dressing like that? Are you trying to seduce some man? I don't care what man you latched onto to get in here, but let me tell you, the people here are all important figures. You'd better not dare to mention any connection to our Hawthorne family." Evelyn couldn't be bothered with her. She stood up to leave, but Beatrice grabbed her arm, refusing to let go. Are you listening to me? Didn't you hear what I said? Have you no manners? This time, Evelyn was thoroughly provoked. Just as she was about to retort, a pair of long, strong hands appeared from behind, pulling her behind him. Leo had finished his interviews and come inside. The moment he entered, he saw Evelyn being harassed. While he wasn't as vengeful as Miles and was known for his gentle, jade-like demeanor, even he couldn't suppress his anger now. "Mrs. Hawthorne, please watch your words and actions." As soon as Leo appeared, all eyes turned towards them. Even Damien, who had been drinking sullenly off to the side, was drawn in. Only then did he realize that Evelyn was also there. Today, she wore a moon-white gown that perfectly outlined her figure. Her palm-sized face, with just a hint of makeup, was already aggressively beautiful. In this state, where was the trace of the dowdy, country girl look she had when she was married to him? The man standing beside her was the famous movie star, Leo Lancaster. She certainly had some charm. To have even a top actor stepping up to defend her, a sour feeling crept into his chest. Damien frowned, knowing this wasn't the time or place to dwell on it. He walked over and took hold of Beatrice's arm, his eyes carrying a hint of authority. "Mother, mind the occasion. Stop making a scene." Just then, the lights on the stage lit up, and Alistair Lancaster slowly walked to the center of the stage under the watchful eyes of the entire audience. He wore a custom-made black Italian suit that gleamed under the lights. His strong, straight nose was both sensual and added to his composed aura. All eyes were on him. He held the microphone and his thin lips parted, his voice cool and magnetic. "Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here with all of you. The main purpose of tonight's banquet is to announce a decision. Effective immediately, the position of president of Apex Conglomerate will be taken over by my sister." The hall erupted in an uproar. Apex Conglomerate was the core of the Lancaster family's empire. Alistair was just handing it over to an heiress who had just returned from studying abroad. This showed just how high the Lancaster heiress's standing was in Alistair's heart. He was willing to give her a multi-billion-dollar company to play with. Was this man a doting brother maniac? Everyone was whispering, wondering who this mysterious Lancaster heiress, who had never shown her face before, could possibly be. Suddenly, all the lights in the hall went out, leaving only a single spotlight that slowly fell upon a girl in the crowd. Under the light, her white dress refracted a rainbow of colors, making her look as beautiful as a goddess. Alistair's lips curved slightly. Amidst a wave of gasps, a smile spread across his face. "And now, allow me to introduce my sister, our family's most precious treasure, Evelyn Lancaster." Chapter 11, as Alistair's words fell, the entire hall erupted in thunderous applause. Among them, Evelyn's 6 brothers clapped the most enthusiastically. Their little 7 was finally back. All eyes were on Evelyn, some curious, some envious, some scrutinizing. But in the crowd, 2 people stood out, completely at odds with the rest. Damien stared fixedly at the radiant woman in the spotlight. She wore a perfectly polite smile, waving graciously at the guests. Where was any trace of the country bumpkin? Was this really his meek, down-to-earth ex-wife? How had his plain, unassuming ex-wife suddenly transformed into the heiress of the Lancaster family? Damien found it hard to believe. Equally incredulous was Mrs. Hawthorne, whose mouth was agape as she stared at Evelyn, now the center of attention. It took a long moment for Beatrice to find her voice. She walked over to Damien and asked, "Damien, tell me, is that woman really Evelyn Lancaster?" Without waiting for a reply, Beatrice continued to herself. "How is that possible that Pauper couldn't possibly be the Lancaster heiress?" Beatrice's voice was naturally loud, and with the hall being so quiet, everyone nearby heard her. They all turned to look at her. Seeing all eyes on them, Damien felt his own face flush with embarrassment. He was about to say something to smooth things over when he saw Beatrice march straight towards Evelyn, heedless of everything. Damien's heart sank. He knew his mother all too well. In recent years, as the Hawthorne business grew, she had become increasingly arrogant, almost recklessly so. Since his father's death, Beatrice's sole focus had been on latching onto more powerful connections. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong was her standard operating procedure. To put it bluntly, his social climbing mother was utterly clueless. He had no idea what kind of scene she was about to make. Beatrice pushed through the crowd, walked right up to Evelyn, and took her hand. Her face was plastered with a phony smile. "Evie, dear, I just found out you're the Lancaster heiress. Why were you so distant? Why did you hide this from your mother for so long?" Miles, the little bro, had a short fuse. He had already held a grudge against Beatrice since seeing her humiliate Evelyn outside the Whispering Pavilion a few days ago. And now Beatrice dared to cause a scene at a Lancaster family banquet. Miles couldn't hold back any longer. His tone was dripping with sarcasm. "Ma'am, do you have some kind of split personality? One second you're badmouthing our little Seven, and the next you're trying to claim kinship. Who are you? And you dare call yourself mother in front of our Evie? Are you looking down on the Lancaster family?" Beatrice was momentarily speechless, her face turning shades of red and white. She quickly recognized the man in front of her as the one who had taken Evelyn to the VIP room at the Whispering Pavilion. So he was a Lancaster, but Beatrice quickly recovered. "I am Evelyn's mother-in-law." Her declaration sent a new wave of shock through the hall. Mother-in-law? The Lancaster heiress was married? When? To whom? Seeing the guests begin to whisper among themselves, Beatrice felt a flicker of pride. "That's right. Evelyn is the daughter-in-law of our Hawthorne family." Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine watching Beatrice's fawning display. She pulled her hand out of Beatrice's grasp. In the 3 years she had been married into the Hawthorne family, Beatrice had never shown her a pleasant expression, constantly ordering her around like a servant. When had she ever addressed her so intimately as Evie? Though she had always known Beatrice was a fickle, opportunistic bully, seeing her stand there now with that sycophantic smile, Evelyn felt a wave of bittersweet irony. She must have been out of her mind for the past 3 years to think she had actually tried to win Beatrice's affection. How could a social climber like Beatrice ever like a hardworking, uncomplaining daughter-in-law? The only things she clearly liked were money and power. Chapter 12. The other guests in the hall began to whisper amongst themselves after hearing Beatrice's words. Who was this Hawthorne family? How could they have managed to marry the Lancaster heiress? The Hawthorne family wasn't particularly well known in the capital circles. They weren't like the powerful, established families, such as the Lancasters, who had deep roots and generations of wealth. The Hawthornes' wealth largely came from holding minor shares in several major conglomerates, making them small-time stakeholders. Even a sliver of the pie from these financial giants was enough to afford the Hawthornes a lifestyle unimaginable to ordinary people. But they were still a long way from true high society. Most of the guests present were from families who were longtime friends or business partners of the Lancasters. The class difference was so vast that it was natural for them not to have heard of the Hawthornes. Alastair had invited Damien and Beatrice with the intention of making them understand just how foolish they had been for the past 3 years, mistaking a pearl for a fish-eye. But he hadn't expected Beatrice to cause a public scene. Evelyn and Damien's 3-year marriage was a secret, a scar that Evelyn and the Lancaster family were unwilling to touch. But this Mrs. Hawthorne not only failed to understand Alastair's intention, she even had the audacity to try and use it to climb the social ladder. Alastair had heard bits and pieces about the things Beatrice had done to Evelyn over the past 3 years. As the eldest brother and the head of the Lancaster family, Alastair's personality was typically aloof and authoritative. Although he was always strict with Evelyn, it didn't mean he loved her any less than his other brothers. Quite the opposite, Alastair was the most protective of them all. Seeing the atmosphere turn tense, Alastair stepped forward and pulled Evelyn behind him. When Beatrice saw Alastair approaching, her smile became even more fawning, and she even tried to extend a hand to shake his. Alastair maintained a slight distance, his expression indifferent but polite. "Ma'am, my sister is currently single. Please refrain from spreading rumors here." Hearing Alastair's words, the guests' gazes towards Beatrice turned even more contemptuous. The Lancaster family's status wasn't something just anyone could try to cling to. Finding herself the target of everyone's scorn, Beatrice panicked, her polite facade crumbling. She tried to grab Evelyn but was blocked by Alastair. So she shouted, "Evelyn, don't you think you can just turn your back on us now that you've got the Lancasters behind you? Don't you dare say you didn't live off our Hawthorne family's money for the past 3 years." With that, she pulled Damien over, her eyes wide with rage. "You loved Damien the most, didn't you, Damien? Tell everyone wasn't she your wife for the last 3 years? Beatrice looked at Damien, and so did everyone else in the hall. But Damien seemed not to hear, his brow furrowed as he stared at Evelyn. He still couldn't accept the fact that Evelyn had transformed into the Lancaster heiress. Meanwhile, Evelyn hid behind Alistair, her expression calm, but her nails were digging into her palms. Beatrice's tantrum was a constant reminder of the humiliating 3 years she had endured. And every time Beatrice had tormented her, Damien had stood by just as he was now a cold observer, as if he were a bystander and it had nothing to do with him. Evelyn hated this side of Damien, but things were different now. In the past, Evelyn had always faced Beatrice alone, but now she had 6 figures standing before her, ready to protect her forever. Alistair was the first to break the silence. He raised an eyebrow and looked back at Evelyn. "Little Seven, do you know these 2 people making a scene?" Chapter 13, hearing Alistair's words, Evelyn was stunned for a moment. But she quickly saw Alistair give her a subtle wink, and she immediately understood his meaning. Acting. Who couldn't do that? Just 10 minutes ago, Beatrice was screaming at her, telling this pauper not to dare claim any connection to the Hawthorne family. Now that she knew Evelyn was the Lancaster heiress, she wanted to use her to cozy up to the Lancasters. Not a chance. Didn't Beatrice tell her not to claim she was part of the Hawthorne family? Well, her wish was granted. Evelyn quickly put on an innocent expression, her large eyes filled with helplessness. She looked at Alistair and said, "Big bro, I don't know these 2 people. I'm clearly single. Why are they slandering my reputation for no reason?" As she spoke, she blinked, looking so aggrieved she seemed on the verge of tears. Alistair lovingly stroked her head in comfort, then turned a stern face to Beatrice, his voice holding an unquestionable authority. "Security, please escort this rumor-mongering lady out. The Lancaster family does not welcome people like her." As security guards took hold of her, Beatrice was in disbelief. She struggled relentlessly, but her strength was no match for the Lancasters' well-trained bodyguards. She started shouting, completely losing her composure. "Let go, on what grounds are you kicking me out? I am an invited guest." "Evelyn, you ungrateful wench, how dare you turn your back on me? Damien, save me." Her further words were lost as she was dragged away. After that commotion, the expressions on the guests' faces were quite colorful. But they all unanimously concluded that Beatrice was a delusional woman trying to latch onto the powerful. After all, the gap between the Lancaster and Hawthorne families was a world apart. How could the precious Lancaster heiress possibly marry down into the Hawthorne family? Soon enough, the Hawthorne name, and Beatrice's in particular, would be the talk of the elite circles, but only as a laughingstock. Damien remained standing in place, silent. This vibrant and endearing version of Evelyn was a stranger to him. He was only now realizing that he had never truly known this woman. He looked at Evelyn and finally spoke. "Evelyn," before he could finish, Alistair cut him off. Alistair blocked Damien's view of his sister, his tone tinged with displeasure. "Mr. Hawthorne, you are not welcome here either. You should probably go and check on Mrs. Hawthorne." Damien was silent for a moment. Seeing that Evelyn had no intention of acknowledging him, he frowned and turned to leave. Evelyn watched Damien's retreating back, realizing she still couldn't face him with complete calm. She thought to herself that she would need more time to completely let go of the past. Beatrice was unceremoniously escorted out of the hotel by the bodyguards. After they were a safe distance away, they released her. Beatrice was hysterical. "Who do you think you are, daring to treat me like this?" But the 2 bodyguards quickly re-entered the hotel, closing the doors behind them, leaving Beatrice alone to stomp her feet in the cold. It was late autumn, and Beatrice, dressed in a sleeveless evening gown, shivered in the cold wind. Her once exquisite makeup was now smudged from the struggle, making her look utterly disheveled. Beatrice was usually domineering, but she was, in reality, a thoughtless woman. When her husband was alive, she relied on his power. Now that he was gone, she leaned on her son. She was arrogant, believing her son was the best man in the world, deserving of everything. Thus, she looked down on everyone, foolishly thinking her son could handle anything, oblivious to the fact that there were always bigger fish in the sea. In the vast ocean of the upper class, they were nothing more than ants. Without someone to cling to, she was fragile. Just as Beatrice was wondering what to do, the hotel doors opened again, and Damien walked out. Chapter 14. Beatrice saw him as a lifeline and quickly rushed over, first with blame. "Damien, why didn't you back me up in there?" But before Damien could answer, she asked eagerly, "So, did that hussy Evelyn admit to her relationship with you? I can't believe we were fooled by that hussy all this time. Seeing her in those cheap clothes, I thought she was some country bumpkin. I never imagined she was the Lancaster heiress. Originally, I was thinking of finding a way to set you up with the Lancaster heiress. I never thought the heiress would be Evelyn. It's like it fell right into our laps. Damien, listen to me. Evelyn loves you so much. If you just sweet-talk her a little, she'll definitely come running back to you and remarry you. Then our Hawthorne family will be connected to the Lancasters, and we won't have to worry for the rest of our lives. Maybe we can even trick them out of a hefty dowry. The Lancasters have more money than they know what to do with anyway. Damien, what do you think?" Beatrice grew more and more excited as she spoke, her face animated as she laid out her plans, completely oblivious to Damien's darkening expression. Mother Damien cut her off sharply. He used to think Beatrice was just a bit greedy, not fundamentally a bad person. But he never imagined she would now ask him to use Evelyn to plot for the Lancaster family's fortune. Damien didn't love Evelyn. He had married her purely to spite Sylvia. He had laid all this out for Evelyn before they got married. But that foolish woman, with some unknown courage, had still married him without a second thought. Did she really think she could move his heart? But thinking back, Evelyn had indeed fulfilled her duties as a wife for the 3 years she was married to him. For 3 years, she had worked tirelessly as a housewife, keeping the house in impeccable order. No matter how Beatrice picked on her or made her life difficult, Evelyn never once bothered him with their mother-in-law-daughter-in-law conflicts. She just silently endured it all. In these 3 years, Evelyn had done nothing wrong. It seemed she just loved him very much. She loved him with all her might, without reservation, as if she would do anything for him. Even though he had never once appreciated her efforts. In Damien's few memories of Evelyn, she always seemed to be looking at him with a hopeful yet timid expression. Every time Evelyn looked at him, her eyes held a love that Damien couldn't comprehend. But all she got in return was Damien's indifference and disdain. At first, Damien thought Evelyn was just after his money. Before the marriage, Damien had told her, "The Hawthorne family can give you anything you want, except for love." This, of course, included money. So, it wouldn't have been out of place for Evelyn to spend his money. But the supplementary card he gave her was returned untouched. At first, Damien thought it was some kind of play hard to get tactic, especially when she insisted on leaving with nothing. Only now did Damien understand. It wasn't a tactic, she simply didn't need it. The Lancaster heiress, how could she possibly be short of money? Money was the one thing she had in abundance. Thinking of this, Damien suddenly realized he might have been too harsh on Evelyn over the years. It was he who had needed her in the first place, yet he had never shown her a kind face. For 3 years, it had been Evelyn who had given to him unconditionally. A belated sense of guilt washed over Damien's heart. Beatrice was stunned by Damien's shout, but quickly asked, "What's wrong? Just tell me." Damien found Beatrice's loud shouting unbearable and started walking towards the parking lot. After finding his car, Damien got into the driver's seat, and Beatrice quickly slipped into the passenger seat. "Damien, tell me, what on earth is going on?" Chapter 15. Mother, it's come to this. Let's not get entangled with the Lancaster family anymore. Haven't you seen their attitude? They're not budging. Don't expect to get any money from them. Evelyn's brothers are not to be trifled with, Damien said, trying to keep his tone calm, but Beatrice missed his intention. Her voice rose even higher. "Let it go. How can we let it go? Evelyn lived in our house, used our resources for 3 years. We can't just let it go like that. She must have spent a fortune of our family's money over these 3 years. Evelyn never touched the money I gave her." Hearing this, Beatrice was taken aback. "What do you mean? She never used it. You mean she was using her own money?" When Damien confirmed it, Beatrice paused for a moment, then continued to argue. "Well, we can't let her live in our house for 3 years for free. She has to pay back what she owes." Damien's anger flared. "Mother, that's enough. Stop making a scene." Beatrice had never seen Damien get angry with her before and was momentarily stunned into silence. "In the 3 years Evelyn was married into our family, we never gave her a moment's peace. We're lucky the Lancaster family isn't coming after us for it. You need to stop adding to the trouble. I've heard about how you've been tormenting Evelyn these 3 years. I'll find a time to send a gift to the Lancaster family as an apology. Mother, you need to stay out of this. The Lancasters are not people you or I can afford to provoke. I'm going to marry Sylvia. You and Sylvia should just stay at home and get along. Don't repeat the same mistakes. I don't want what happened with Evelyn to happen again. While Damien and his mother were at odds, the scene back at the banquet hall was one of joy and celebration. Now that Evelyn had finally reappeared after so many years, she inevitably had to exchange pleasantries with the guests. A steady stream of people, mostly wealthy wives, came up to offer toasts. Evelyn graciously clinked glasses with each of them, a polite smile on her face. Someone started it, and soon several of them were speaking to Evelyn in turn. Miss Lancaster, please don't let what just happened ruin your mood. That Mrs. Hawthorne, she's no good. We've all had dealings with her. She's just a social climber, a real nobody. So petty, completely lacking in class. And to think she'd dare to spread rumors about being your mother-in-law, it's absolutely laughable. Exactly. No one who knows her likes her. She acts as if her son is some great prize, looking down on everyone. And then she has the nerve to cozy up to me, without even considering if her son is worthy of my daughter. It's infuriating. Miss Lancaster, in the future, you shouldn't invite such low-class families to your events. It's just bad luck we know the Lancasters are generous and willing to make friends, but you still need to be discerning. Evelyn smiled but said nothing, listening to their complaints with a polite nod of acknowledgement. Although she knew they were saying these things to stand up for her, she still felt a bit suffocated. Every person here was a constant reminder of how foolish her past actions had been. For what she thought was love, she had hidden her identity to marry Damien, only to end up with nothing but scars, having only moved herself. Evelyn even felt a sense of relief that Damien had never given her any response. If he had shown her even the slightest bit of affection, she feared she would have clung to those few sweet moments and wasted away in the Hawthorne household. Evelyn shuddered to think what would have happened if Damien had found out she was a Lancaster and deliberately manipulated her just to get close to her family's connections. Thankfully, she was completely awake now. Now that she was back with the Lancaster family, under the protection of her 6 brothers, she would never make the same mistake again. Chapter 16. After lingering in the ballroom for a while, Evelyn excused herself, claiming she couldn't handle her liquor, and retreated to the lounge. Finally away from the bustling crowd, Evelyn let out a long sigh of relief. Soon after, her little bro, Miles, came in. Seeing her weary expression, he couldn't help but worry. "Little Seven, are you all right?" Evelyn shook her head. "I'm fine, little bro. I'm just a little tired." In the 3 years she had spent at the Hawthorns, Damien had never once taken her out, let alone to a banquet like this. It had been too long since she had faced so many high society figures in such a setting, and Evelyn felt a bit overwhelmed. It seemed that 3 years at the Hawthorns had caused all her once fine qualities to regress, which was not a good thing. Miles grew anxious. "Then should I take you home to rest?" "It's okay, little bro. I'll be fine after resting here for a bit." Miles looked at his sister. The innocence and light that had once shone in her eyes 3 years ago were gone, and a wave of anger washed over him. It was all because of that damn Damien Hawthorne and his family. They had done this to their little Seven. "Little Seven, tell me the truth. You're still not over Damien Hawthorne, are you?" "No, little bro. I won't make the same mistake again. I see Damien for who he is now. I just need a little more time," Evelyn said, forcing a faint smile. Miles pinched her cheek. Seeing her feigned cheerfulness, he felt a pang of heartache. "It's all that bastard Damien's fault, putting such a sad look on our little Seven's face. Our little Seven never used to look so sad. You're not as cute as you used to be." Miles's words made Evelyn laugh. She pushed his hand away. "Little bro, I have to grow up sometime. I can't be a clueless little girl forever, can I?" "You can," Miles said, his eyes uncharacteristically serious. "Little Seven, with your brothers here, you can always be that carefree little girl who knows nothing of the world. We'll spoil and protect you for the rest of our lives." Tears welled up in Evelyn's eyes. She mumbled, "Little bro, it's so good to have you all." Miles pulled Evelyn into his arms and wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes. Evelyn's mood shifted from cloudy to sunny, and she started to joke, "Little bro, in that case, can I not go to work at the company?" Miles was at a loss for words. About that. You'll have to ask Big Bro. Of course, you can't. Just as he finished, Alistair's voice sounded from behind them. Evelyn looked up to see Alistair leading her other 4 brothers. Evelyn couldn't help but complain. Big Bro, I've only been back for such a short time, and you already want me to go to work at the company. It's been so long since I've worked. I don't want to be under your watchful eye all day. Alistair patted her head. Don't try to get out of it. I just announced in front of all those people that I'm handing over the position of president of Apex Conglomerate to you. We can't go back on our word, can we? Brother, is this the surprise you were talking about? Evelyn felt like she had been set up. Chapter 17, it was true that before marrying Damien, she had been a top student in finance. If it weren't for her marriage to Damien, she would, by all rights, be sitting in the president's chair at Apex Conglomerate by now. But that was all based on the premise that she hadn't married Damien. Now, after 3 years in the Hawthorne household, with her mind completely focused on Damien, spending her days cooking and cleaning and being a diligent housewife, she had become completely detached from the outside world, let alone keeping up with her financial knowledge. At this point, even if Evelyn hadn't forgotten everything about finance and management, she had forgotten at least 70 to 80% of it. She couldn't even grasp the current market trends, so how could she possibly take on the role of president of Apex Conglomerate? Evelyn disliked the feeling of being pushed into something she wasn't ready for, and at the same time, she felt inadequate. She was just a novice now, and she didn't dare to use her family's multi-billion-dollar company as a training ground. Starting as a junior employee would have been more appropriate. You don't just finish the tutorial and immediately face the final boss. Though Evelyn knew her 6 brothers doted on her, she couldn't joke around with the company. After all, Apex Conglomerate had tens of thousands of employees whose livelihoods could be at stake because of a single decision she made. She couldn't bear that responsibility. Evelyn's expression turned serious. She looked at Alistair solemnly and said, Big Bro, I know you care for me and want to give me a chance to grow, and to help me find something to do to distract myself. But in every aspect right now, I'm not fit for the position of president of Apex Conglomerate. I am not worthy of the position, so I can't accept this hot potato you're handing me. Seeing Alistair remain silent, Evelyn quickly gave Miles a look, hoping he would put in a good word for her. But Alistair just smiled. Little 7, how come after 3 years away, you've become less daring than you were before? The you from 3 years ago would have accepted this challenge without hesitation. Little 7, being so timid is not like you. Don't worry, Big Bro will teach you step by step. I won't let you fail. Only when you're ready will I feel at ease handing Apex over to you. Besides, the Lancaster family has so many other businesses that need my attention. Little 7 needs to help her brother share the burden, right? Miles also chimed in. Exactly, Little 7. With Big Bro guiding you, what are you afraid of? Becoming the president of Apex Conglomerate has always been your dream, hasn't it? Now that your dream is coming true, you should be happy. But hearing them say this, Evelyn's face showed no sign of joy. Yes, becoming the president of Apex Conglomerate has always been my dream. But I hope to achieve it through my own hard work. Clearly, that's not the case now. I haven't been involved in the company's affairs for 3 years. Right now, I might even be less qualified than a new hire. Even with Big Bro teaching me, it's like trying to dig a well when you're already thirsty. So, please forgive me, brothers, but I can't accept your kind offer. I want to go back to school for a while before I return to work at Apex Conglomerate. Hearing Evelyn's words, Alistair fell silent for a long moment. Evelyn grew nervous. Ever since she was a child, she had feared this brother the most. Despite his handsome face, he was stern and old-fashioned. He was like a father figure to her, but she was more afraid of Alistair than her actual father. And Alistair's personality was extremely authoritative. Once he made a decision, it was very difficult to change. Now, Evelyn's heart was pounding. Though she had made her case eloquently, she wasn't sure if Alistair would relent. So she added one last sentence. Big Bro, give me 2 years. I want to go abroad to study for 2 years, then come back to take over Apex Conglomerate. Chapter 18. Alistair frowned, finally making a decision. Little 7, I can agree to let you go abroad for further studies, but I can only give you 1 year. Although Apex Conglomerate is the core of the Lancaster family business, As the manager of all the industries under the Lancaster Group, I have many other things to attend to besides Apex. Little 7, I've already let you play outside for 3 years. Shortening your study period from 2 years to 1 is a small punishment. Don't blame your big brother. Evelyn nodded. I won't. Big bro is doing this for my own good. 1 year is 1 year, I won't blame you. Her 5th brother, Caleb, came forward and ruffled her hair. Little 7, when you're studying abroad, your 5th brother will look after you. Come to my company often and learn from me. You'll definitely pick up a lot. Her 2nd brother, Ethan, also said, That's right, little 7. Once you decide which country you're going to, I'll take on more flight routes there. Your 2nd brother will come and visit you. Her 3rd brother, Leo, added with a smile, Right, and I can shoot some films there. Miles, not to be outdone, declared, As for me, as long as I have a computer, I can work from anywhere. Little 7, your little bro will go abroad with you. Even the usually quiet 4th brother, Elliot, spoke up. So, maybe I should open a branch of my law firm abroad. Elliot's words made everyone laugh, and the tears that had been welling up in Evelyn's eyes were replaced with a smile. It's so good to have you all. Little 7 will never leave you again, and so, the banquet ended with the 7 siblings happily returning to the Lancaster estate. Their parents, Mr. and Mrs. Lancaster, were getting on in years and had long since handed over the reins to Alastair. Still in good health, the elderly couple had embarked on a journey to travel the world, making up for lost time from their youth, traveling far and wide with great joy. Every now and then, they would send postcards back to their 7 children, filled with happy snapshots from their travels. The Lancaster family's approach to parenting had always been democratic, respecting their children's choices. They believed in letting them do what they wanted, as long as they could bear the consequences of their decisions. So, when they learned of the 3-year pact between Evelyn and her 6 brothers, they didn't react with much surprise. They simply said to Evelyn, Little 7, this is your own choice. While your mother and I don't support it, we will respect your decision. Since you've chosen to hide your identity and marry into the Hawthorne family, when things go wrong, your mother, father, and brothers won't be able to help you immediately. You'll have to stand on your own 2 feet. It might be for the best. You can gain some experience on your own for these 3 years. Since it's your choice, don't regret it. You have to bear the consequences, good or bad. Later, when they heard that Evelyn had returned hurt, though they spoke sternly, their hearts ached for her. After all, Evelyn was their youngest daughter. How could they not be heartbroken when their daughter was mistreated? So, Mr. and Mrs. Lancaster privately instructed Alastair to help Evelyn get justice. Evelyn's departure for her studies abroad was set for a month later. During that month, Evelyn would occasionally accompany Alastair to Apex Conglomerate to familiarize herself with the company's structure and workflow, which would help her with more targeted studies and research abroad. During her breaks, she would sometimes go out with Miles or follow Leo to various events to broaden her horizons. Leo had been in the entertainment industry since he was 15 and was now a top-tier movie star. Evelyn followed him to many new and exciting film sets. During her time back with the Lancaster family, Evelyn's life was completely filled with work and entertainment, leaving her no time to think about Damien. Plus, since the banquet, Damien and Beatrice had not bothered her again, so she had almost forgotten about them. It wasn't until the final week before Evelyn's departure that Miles reminded her, Little 7, if there's anything you haven't done, you should do it now. We're going abroad next week, and we won't be back for a year. Evelyn was jolted back to reality. A mischievous look appeared on her face. I almost forgot. It seems there is one thing I haven't done. Chapter 19, a puzzled look crossed Miles's face. What is it that you haven't done? Evelyn grinned and whispered something in his ear. A look of understanding dawned on Miles's face, and he chuckled. I didn't realize, Little 7, that you had a devious side. Don't worry, leave this to your little bro. A week later, someone anonymously uploaded a video to a platform. Curious netizens clicked on it and were astonished. Soon, the video was shared across all major platforms, sweeping through the entire internet. The Hawthorne Group had risen to prominence in recent years because of a highly successful line of daily chemical products they had launched a few years ago, which had driven the company's growth. From then on, the Hawthorne Group's income was no longer dependent on dividends from investments in large corporations, but came from its own line of products and production facilities. And for a company that makes daily consumer goods, reputation is everything. Previously, the Hawthorne Group's products had received a boost in popularity due to the exposure of Damien Hawthorne's image. Damien was lauded by netizens as the most handsome CEO. The benefits of the fan economy were immense, and after that, the Hawthorne Group's profits had multiplied. And now, this video that was being shared all over the internet was a scandal involving the Hawthorne Group's CEO, Damien Hawthorne. The title of the video was also very catchy. Shocking popular CEO cheats on wife, vicious mother-in-law abuses daughter-in-law. The content of the video consisted of photos of Damien and Sylvia's numerous secret meetings. Then, the camera cut to footage of Evelyn being abused by her mother-in-law, Beatrice, at home. The angle of the video was very subtle, only showing Evelyn's back, but Beatrice's vicious face was clearly visible. The release of such a huge scandal was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, causing a massive uproar among the public. The video quickly garnered thousands of comments. "Oh my God, isn't that the Hawthorne CEO who was so popular recently? I can't believe he looks so decent but is actually this kind of person. Cheating is unforgivable. I'm speechless. This mother-in-law is too much. You can't just make someone kneel, no matter what. How is that different from domestic abuse? My heart goes out to the young lady. You really can't judge a book by its cover. The entire Hawthorne Group family is rotten to the core. I'm never buying their products again. I'm boycotting all Hawthorne Group products. Agreed. People with no morals don't deserve to make money. Does anyone else think the Hawthorne Group's products are just so-so? I stopped using them a long time ago." Evelyn scrolled through the comments under the video, laughing so hard she couldn't stop. She showed a few comments to Miles and said, "Little bro, look at this. The netizens are so creative. This is hilarious." Miles laughed. "Yeah, I don't think Damien will be able to do anything about this. Let's see him try to deny he did these things." Miles's fingers flew across the keyboard. A moment later, a link appeared out of nowhere in the comments section of the video. Clicking on it revealed a collection of photos of Sylvia kissing other men. Different men, different angles, dozens of photos in total. After doing all this, Miles closed his laptop with a triumphant smile. Now, let's see how Sylvia tries to deny this. The one that got away, huh? I'm going to give Damien a taste of what it's like to lose both love and money. As the public's interest grew, the personal information of Damien, Sylvia, and Beatrice was completely exposed. Out of a principle of not harming the victim, and with some deliberate guidance, no one focused on Evelyn's true identity. Instead, all the firepower was directed at Damien and the other two. Soon, the video had been shared and interacted with tens of thousands of times, and the comments section of the Hawthorne Group's official social media page was completely flooded. Evelyn happily followed the drama, completely forgetting that she was one of the people involved. At that moment, Damien, who was helping Sylvia pick out a wedding dress, received a series of frantic calls from his assistant. "What is it?" Damien answered the phone calmly, but his assistant's voice on the other end sounded like the world was ending. "Sir, something terrible has happened, Chapter 20. What happened?" Damien stood up, his expression grim, completely ignoring the joyful look on Sylvia's face as she approached in a wedding dress. "Sir, it's bad. Someone has anonymously released a video with scandals about you and your mother, and there are also some photos of Miss Ross attached. Anyway, you need to see this right away. The company's group chat is exploding." After hanging up, a news notification popped up on Damien's phone. "Hawthorne Group CEO's family exposed. Is everyone a villain?" Damien frowned and clicked on it. The first thing he saw was the video. Damien quickly skimmed through it, but the attached photos of Sylvia made his heart pound. Sylvia, still unaware of what had happened, walked over, dragging the train of her dress, and used her usual coquettish tone. "Damien, you promised to help me pick a wedding dress today. Why are you busy with company matters again? If you keep this up, I'm going to get angry." Damien let out a cold laugh and held the phone up to Sylvia's face. "Then before you get angry, why don't you explain these photos to me?" Sylvia looked at the phone screen and screamed as if she had seen something terrifying. How do you have these?" Realizing she had slipped up, Sylvia quickly tried to backtrack. "No. Damien, didn't I tell you last time? These photos are photoshopped. Someone is trying to frame me. Damien, you know me. For all these years, you've been the only man in my heart, don't you believe me? Damien pulled his phone back, a humorless smile on his face. Sylvia, the photos last time were nothing compared to these. And as it happens, I know one of the men in these pictures. How about I give him a call and let him clear your name? Sylvia's face turned deathly white. She grabbed Damien's sleeve and begged for mercy. I'm sorry, Damien, I was wrong. I didn't mean to. They forced me. You know, a weak woman like me, all alone in a foreign country with no power or influence. I had to obey them. But Damien, my heart has always been with you. Damien coldly pulled his sleeve from her grasp and snorted. Forced? You looked like you were enjoying yourself. Damien turned and left, giving Sylvia nothing but a cold, heartless back. Sylvia, I've been fooled by you all these years. You're quite something to think I actually believed your nonsense. With that, Damien ignored Sylvia's desperate attempts to follow and stop him, stumbling in her high heels, and left the bridal shop without a second glance. Once in his car, Damien immediately called his assistant. Have the PR department draft a statement immediately. Say that I am currently single and have no relationship with Sylvia Ross. My previous marriage was by agreement, with no real spousal relations, so there was no cheating involved, and we have since divorced peacefully. Next, Damien tried to call Evelyn, but her number was no longer in service. Evelyn had long since deleted him from her contacts, so there was no way to reach her. Just as Damien was debating whether to go to the Lancaster estate, he suddenly remembered the text message Evelyn had sent him to arrange the divorce. Damien found the unfamiliar number in his inbox and dialed it. Surprisingly, it went through. Chapter 21, the call connected quickly, and a familiar female voice answered. Hello, who is this? It was Evelyn's private number, and she had forgotten to block Damien. Damien's voice was heavy. Evelyn, was the video you're doing? Evelyn was stunned for a moment before realizing it was Damien on the other end. Oh, it's President Hawthorne. Yes, I did it. What about it? Damien Hawthorne, you owe me so much. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. Is there a problem? Damien Hawthorne, are you already losing your cool over a single video? What if I told you I have a lot more surprises in store for you? Are you going to kill me? After saying her piece, Evelyn gave him no chance to reply and decisively hung up. Then, she added Damien's number to her block list. It was the first time in his life that the great President Hawthorne had been hung up on by a woman. He was furious, but when he tried to call back, the line was already dead. Damien had to use another number to send a text message. Evie, I was wrong about what happened before. On behalf of myself and my mother, I apologize. The gifts I sent to Apex Conglomerate were all returned by your brother. I am once again sincerely apologizing to you. Name your price for compensation. I will do my best to meet your demands as a token of my apology. I hope you can make a statement on my behalf to help the Hawthorne Group get through this crisis. After reading the text, Evelyn found it utterly ridiculous. It was true that people bow their heads when they're in a tough spot. The old Damien had never shown a shred of remorse. Now that he needed her, he remembered to ask for her forgiveness. Not a chance, Evelyn replied with a powerful 7 words. Not helping. I'm not short on cash. After blocking Damien's number again, Evelyn turned off her phone with a sense of satisfaction, leaned back in her seat, and prepared to sleep. That's right, Evelyn was on a plane heading abroad. Beside her, Miles saw her smug expression and knew she must have gotten the better of Damien, which was why she was so happy. This Evelyn was finally starting to resemble the bold and willful Lancaster heiress from 3 years ago. Miles smiled and shook his head, pulling down the window shade for her. Away from the troubles back home, Evelyn's life as a student abroad was surprisingly pleasant. During the day, when she had classes, Evelyn was always the first to arrive. When she had no classes, she would go to her 5th brother Caleb's company to learn from him and help with some business matters. In the evenings, she would usually go out for dinner with Miles, and they would walk home together. After getting home, she would handle some work and study matters. Life was peaceful and enjoyable. As for her love life, Evelyn had long since put the past with Damien behind her. And after a few days of intense harassment, Damien had fallen silent, which Evelyn found to be a welcome relief. This peaceful life continued for over half a year, but a small change began to disrupt Evelyn's calm existence. The reason was that recently, Evelyn had been getting close to one of the men in her class. Chapter 22, their class, though called a financial advancement program, was essentially a hub for the children of aristocrats and wealthy families. The students in the class came from increasingly prominent backgrounds, so much so that even the Lancaster family behind Evelyn didn't seem particularly dazzling in this setting. It was only now that Evelyn understood why Alastair had insisted on spending a great deal of money to send her to this advanced program. Because the people who could get into this class were either rich or noble, it was a prime opportunity for Evelyn to expand her network. Evelyn's classmates included the son of an oil tycoon, a princess from a small country, and many children of Fortune 500 executives. But there was one person whose background Evelyn didn't know, and that man was the only other person in the class who shared her nationality. Meeting a fellow countryman in a foreign land was always a joyous occasion. On the first day of class, Evelyn had noticed this man, the only one in the class with the same eye and hair color as her. Evelyn was naturally outgoing, so after class that day, Evelyn took a seat in front of the man and turned around, extending her hand. "Hello, you're from Z Country too, right? So am I. My name is Evelyn Lancaster." To her surprise, the man didn't even look up, continuing to type away on his keyboard. Evelyn thought he might not have understood, so she tried again in English, French, and every other language she knew, but he remained unresponsive. Evelyn was dumbfounded. Was this guy deaf? Not one to give up, Evelyn waved her hand in front of his face, trying to get his attention. Finally, the man reacted, speaking in fluent Z language with a surprisingly pleasant voice. "Miss, could you please stop waving your hand in front of my face? You're disturbing my work." Evelyn was taken aback. She shot up from her seat, about to argue with him, but was pulled aside by another woman in the class with blonde hair and blue eyes. "Evelyn, don't be angry. You're new here, you don't know the situation. He's always like this, he ignores everyone. Don't provoke him, you might get into trouble. His name is Cashin Chase. No one knows his family background, but I heard he's connected to the mafia," Amanda whispered in Evelyn's ear. Evelyn had never met anyone like this in her life. His arrogant demeanor was truly annoying. Hearing Amanda's words, Evelyn considered the situation and smiled at Amanda. "Thank you for telling me this, Amanda." But giving up was never in Evelyn's nature. From that moment on, she made a mental note about Cashin Chase. Over the next few days, Evelyn observed that Cashin Chase was indeed a strange person. Normally, people in this advanced program, like Evelyn, were either rich or noble and wanted to make friends and expand their network. So, after class, social activities were perfectly normal. In fact, some wealthy students often treated their classmates to meals and organized gatherings to build relationships. But this Cashin Chase was a true oddity. He arrived right on time for class and left the moment the bell rang. He was always the last to arrive and the first to leave, and he never participated in any class activities. And no one found this strange. Chapter 23, if it weren't for Amanda's words, Evelyn would have thought she was hallucinating. Was she the only one who could see Cashin Chase? The fact that Cashin came and went so quickly, and that no one found it strange, was strange in itself. Evelyn couldn't keep her thoughts to herself and asked Amanda that day, "Amanda, aren't you guys curious why Cashin is such a loner?" Amanda was surprised that Evelyn was still hung up on Cashin. "You mean Cashin?" At first, everyone thought it was strange, but we got used to it over time. Maybe everyone just treats him as invisible. Who knows, it's his business if he's not sociable. Why should we care about other people's privacy? Then, a mischievous smile appeared on Amanda's face. She asked gossipily, "Evelyn, why are you so interested in Cashin? You don't have a crush on him, do you?" Amanda's words made Evelyn wave her hands in denial. "No way, I'm just..." Still holding a grudge against him for ignoring me, Amanda clearly didn't believe her. "Evelyn, don't be shy. There's no shame in liking Cashin. After all, he's quite handsome, and his grades are excellent. The professors have a high opinion of him." Hearing Amanda's words, Evelyn's mind conjured up an image of Cashin's expressionless face. He was indeed quite handsome, and tall and thin, always moving around the classroom like a bamboo pole. A bamboo pole. Evelyn couldn't help but chuckle at her own description. Seeing her laugh to herself, Amanda became even more convinced that Evelyn liked Cashin. She pointed at Evelyn and said, "See, and you say you don't like him." Amanda's exclamation drew the attention of other classmates, and Evelyn quickly covered Amanda's mouth. "Shh, Amanda, keep your voice down," to Amanda. Evelyn's behavior just seemed like a poor attempt to hide the truth. Amanda closed her mouth, made a zipping motion across her lips with her thumb and forefinger, and then gave Evelyn an okay sign. Seeing Amanda's reaction, Evelyn knew she hadn't been convinced. Evelyn sighed in frustration and shook her head. Now she was in a situation she couldn't explain her way out of. But Amanda was right about one thing: she was very interested in Cashin. One reason was that she felt the name was very familiar, and she had a feeling she had heard it somewhere before. The second reason was that there was something about Cashin that made her want to know more. Evelyn was curious how someone could live like a machine, appearing and disappearing at the exact same time every day, always with that expressionless face, and always working on his computer. Cashin was like the mysterious and quiet Walden Pond, and Evelyn felt an urge to uncover his secrets. Evelyn wanted to throw a stone into this beautiful lake to see what it would look like when its usually calm surface rippled. So, from that day on, Evelyn changed her habit of being the first to arrive and started coming to class right on time, just like Cashin. And Evelyn always entered the classroom after Cashin had taken his seat. Chapter 24, wherever Cashin sat, Evelyn would sit right in front of him, not too close, but close enough for her to turn around and talk to him during breaks, and Cashin couldn't say anything about it. After all, the classroom was large, and she could sit wherever she wanted. Day after day, Evelyn would try to strike up a conversation with Cashin during the 10-minute breaks, but he never responded, letting her chatter away by herself. But Evelyn was not one to give up easily. Her habit was to face challenges head-on and never back down. Otherwise, she wouldn't have insisted on marrying Damien 3 years ago, even though she knew his heart belonged to someone else. At the time, Evelyn believed she could win Damien's heart. Although the outcome was not what she had hoped for, deep down, Evelyn didn't regret it. If you don't even dare to try, how will you know if your choice is right or wrong? Evelyn's persistent efforts didn't move Cashin, but they did amaze her classmates. One day, after Cashin had once again left without a word, giving Evelyn his cold back, Amanda walked up to Evelyn and gave her a thumbs up. "Evelyn, I really admire you. You're so persistent with this iceberg, Cashin. As far as I know, there are several guys in our class pursuing you, but you're not interested in any of them. Why are you so fixated on Cashin? Did he cast some kind of spell on you?" Amanda was right. Because Evelyn was beautiful, had a good family background, and a great personality, a few guys in the class had pursued her, but she had turned them all down. The reason was simple, and it wasn't because she still had feelings for Damien. It was just that Evelyn didn't want to date a foreigner. Besides the physical differences, there were also significant lifestyle and cultural differences between her and foreigners. Evelyn didn't think she was tolerant enough to handle the major disagreements that could arise in a relationship with someone from a different background. So Evelyn shook her head and said to Amanda, "No, I just think Cashin is an interesting person, and I want to be friends with him. After all, it's rare to meet a fellow countryman in a foreign land, so I find it intriguing." Amanda shrugged, not understanding. Evelyn continued to pester Cashin every day for a month and a half. But Evelyn was also a person of principle. Her pestering of Cashin was limited to the classroom. Once Cashin left the classroom, she didn't bother with his whereabouts. After all, her intention was just curiosity, not to be a stalker. Evelyn noticed that Cashin was always furiously typing on his computer whenever he had a spare moment, occasionally clicking the mouse. At first, Evelyn, respecting his privacy, never looked at what he was doing on his computer. But one day, Evelyn was unexpectedly late, and Cashin was already working on his computer. As she walked past him, she realized that he was modeling and programming at the same time now. Evelyn looked at Cashin with a new sense of astonishment. This class was full of hidden talents. It turned out Cashin was a tech whiz. Chapter 25, Evelyn immediately shared her latest discovery with Amanda. Amanda, now used to Evelyn's mysterious ways, couldn't help but ask, "Evelyn, aren't you and Cashin from the same country? With your family's influence, it shouldn't be hard to find out about Cashin's background, right?" Amanda's words were a wake-up call for Evelyn. She slapped her forehead in frustration. Oh, right, how could I forget about my little bro? Any mystery will be unraveled by his incredible hacking skills. That evening, Evelyn burst into Miles's room, full of excitement. Little bro Miles, who rarely saw Evelyn so animated, looked up from his computer. Little Seven, what's up? What happened to make you so happy? Evelyn ran to Miles's side, sat down, and affectionately linked her arm with his. Little bro, I need you to do me a favor. Seeing her like this, Miles knew it was probably something mischievous. He said with a sigh, Go on, what trouble do you want your little bro to help you with this time? Hearing this, Evelyn stuck out her tongue playfully. Little bro, what are you talking about? When do I ever ask you to help me with bad things? Miles smiled but didn't respond. All right, what do you want? Evelyn looked a bit embarrassed. Well, it's nothing much. I just want you to help me look up someone. Miles raised an eyebrow. Look up someone? Who? A classmate of mine. He's really mysterious. Little bro, you have no idea. He's a total loner, and no one in our class knows anything about his background, so I'm curious. Miles sighed. Little Seven, prying into other people's privacy isn't a good habit. No, that's not it, little bro. It's just that he's also from Z country, and I feel like his name is really familiar. I have a feeling we might have known each other before. Really? What's his name? Miles couldn't help but ask. His name is Cashin Chase, but I've been thinking for a long time, and I don't think I know any family with the surname Chase. Little bro, do you know of any family in the capital with that surname? It's really rare, Cashin Chase. Miles murmured, lost in thought. There were indeed no prominent families in the capital with the surname Chase. Miles thought for a long time and could only recall one person he knew with that surname. But that person was not only a woman but, as far as he knew, had passed away. She was the late wife of Uncle Kensington. The Lancaster family was one of the most powerful and respected in the capital. Among the many families in the capital, one of the few that could be compared to the Lancasters was the Kensington family. The Kensingtons had a distinguished history, descended from one of the 8 great Manchu clans, the Gualgia, and were considered nobility. The Kensingtons had deep roots in the capital, but their main base of operations had long since moved abroad, and their business in the capital was now handled by some branch families. But even a shadow of their former selves, the Kensingtons were still a formidable force. Moreover, in recent years, the Kensingtons had seen the potential of the domestic market and had begun to expand their operations back home. Miles had only visited the Kensington family a few times when he was very young and had met Uncle and Mrs. Kensington a few times. Miles remembered that Mrs. Kensington's surname was Chase. She had always been frail and sickly and was said to have passed away at a young age, after which the Kensington family had immigrated abroad. So, logically, there should be no family in the capital with the surname Chase. Even Mrs. Kensington's family was from the South. Seeing Miles lost in thought, Evelyn couldn't help but call out, little bro, what are you thinking about? Hurry up and help me check." Chapter 26. Miles snapped back to reality and tried to search for information about Cashin Chase on his computer, but found nothing. This was very strange. Miles could tell at a glance that someone had deliberately hidden his information, and the other person's skills were on par with his own. Miles raised an eyebrow, sensing that this Cashin Chase might be more than he seemed. But he wasn't one to meddle in other people's affairs, so he shrugged and said to Evelyn with a helpless look, "I can't find anything. A master has hidden his information." Evelyn was surprised. As far as she knew, Miles's hacking skills were among the best in the world. Who could be so powerful as to make even Miles admit defeat? "Little bro, is the person who hid Cashin's information better than you?" Miles explained, "Probably about the same level. I could crack it with a little time, but I've just taken on a big project, so I don't have time to get into a battle with him. Little Seven, this classmate of yours, Cashin Chase, might have some powerful backing. You'd better not provoke him." Curiosity killed the cat. Besides, we're in a foreign country, not our own turf. You should understand the principle that a strong dragon can't beat a local snake, right? With that, Miles gave her the get out signal. "All right, Little Seven, I have to work now. Go and play by yourself." Evelyn nodded obediently, left Miles's room, and didn't forget to close the door behind her. But Evelyn didn't give up her efforts. She just changed her approach. Instead of meaningless greetings and questions about class, her conversations with Cashin became more specific. Cashin, what are you programming? Is it a game? Cashin, the character you're modeling looks really good. Is it hard? Cashin, are you working on a project for a company? That's so cool. But no matter what Evelyn said, Cashin remained indifferent, treating her as if she were invisible. Not only did he not speak, but he didn't even give her a single glance. It was a blatant disregard. But it was this kind of disregard that was the most frustrating. It had been 2 months, and although Cashin didn't resist or refuse, he also didn't respond. Evelyn thought he had incredible patience. Wasn't he annoyed? Evelyn felt like she was a female version of a nagging monk, chanting scriptures to a stone statue every day. After talking to Cashin day after day, even someone as talkative as Evelyn was running out of things to say. So, one day, Evelyn turned around, propped her head on her hand, and looked at Cashin, not knowing what to say. It was the first time Evelyn had looked at Cashin so intently. She suddenly realized that he was very handsome. Especially his eyelashes, which were enviably long. His high, bridged nose and thin lips all spoke of his indifference. Evelyn couldn't help but pout. They say that people with thin lips are heartless, and it seemed to be true. Who could remain indifferent to months of warmth and enthusiasm? He was truly a strange person. But just then, Cashin looked over at her and met her gaze. Chapter 27. The moment Cashin looked over, Evelyn clearly felt her heart skip a beat. Cashin's pupils were a lighter shade than most people's, so when he looked at you, you couldn't help but be drawn to his eyes. But Cashin didn't make any further moves. He didn't speak, and Evelyn felt the atmosphere grow subtly warmer. She had to say something to break the silence. Cashin, is there something I can help you with? To her surprise, Cashin responded. He shook his head very slightly, looked away, and returned his gaze to his computer screen. Evelyn felt a sense of relief wash over her. Just as she thought he wouldn't react further, Cashin spoke to her. His voice was as emotionless as his expression. But if you listened closely, you could sense a deeper meaning. He said, Evelyn Lancaster, you really haven't changed a bit after all these years. Hearing this, Evelyn's eyes widened. Her mind felt like it had exploded, leaving her unable to think for a moment. So, Cashin knew her name. She thought he only knew the professor's name. Wait, what did he mean by, haven't changed a bit after all these years? Did she and Cashin know each other before? Evelyn felt like she had 100 questions for Cashin, but she had only managed to say, you, when the school bell rang, and the old, white-bearded professor walked in. Professor Smith's classes were lively, interesting, and easy to understand, and they were usually Evelyn's favorite. But because of Cashin's cryptic remark, Evelyn found herself daydreaming in Professor Smith's class for the first time. Evelyn thought to herself, so she and Cashin did know each other. But why couldn't she remember him at all? Never one to give up, Evelyn tore a corner off her notepad, hastily scribbled a few words, and secretly placed it on Cashin's desk. Cashin opened the note and saw that the small piece of paper was filled with questions. Did we know each other before? How? Why don't I remember it all? If you knew me, why didn't you say so? If you knew me, why did you ignore me for the past few months? Somewhat surprised by how many questions Evelyn had, Cashin couldn't help but shake his head and smile. He turned the note over, wrote a sentence, crumpled it into a ball, and gently tossed it forward. The paper ball landed neatly on Evelyn's desk. Perhaps because Cashin's behavior was so out of character, Professor Smith clearly noticed their exchange. So, Professor Smith called on Cashin to answer a question. Hearing Professor Smith call his name, Evelyn straightened up in her seat. She had assumed that, like her, Cashin hadn't been paying attention and wouldn't be able to answer the question. A scolding was inevitable. Although Professor Smith looked kind, not paying attention in his class was his biggest pet peeve. Evelyn felt a sense of schadenfreude, but she also worried for him, since she was the one who had passed him the note. But to her surprise, after Professor Smith asked the question, Cashin answered it without much thought. Chapter 28. Evelyn was speechless, and a bit resentfully, she opened the note Cashin had returned to her. Cashin's handwriting was beautiful, elegant, and flowing, with a hint of rebelliousness. They say that handwriting reflects a person's character, and Evelyn had a feeling that Cashin was not as calm as he appeared. He was like the deep sea, with countless secrets hidden beneath a calm surface. The calmness was just a facade, a prelude to the next high tide, ready to sweep everything away. The note Cashin returned to her had only one sentence. Pay attention in class. Come with me after class, and I'll give you the answers you want. After reading this, Evelyn's heart skipped another beat. Throughout the rest of the class, Evelyn was distracted. Although she tried to force herself to pay attention, her thoughts kept drifting to Cashin. What would he say to her later? For the first time, Evelyn felt that the class was dragging on forever. As soon as the bell rang, Evelyn packed her things as quickly as possible and followed Cashin out of the classroom. On her way out, she ran into Amanda, who was just entering the classroom. Amanda's eyes widened when she saw Evelyn following Cashin. She silently gave her a thumbs up, which made Evelyn smile. Evelyn never would have guessed that Cashin would take her to a hot pot restaurant. But after being abroad for so long, Evelyn was indeed craving the taste of hot pot. Seeing Evelyn's confused expression, Cashin asked, "What's wrong? Isn't this your favorite?" "My favorite? When did I say that?" "How do you know?" Evelyn asked, puzzled. Cashin pulled out a chair for Evelyn, gesturing for her to sit. Then he said, "Isn't it? You said it yourself in first grade during a class meeting. You even wrote a song about hot pot, remember?" Evelyn's eyes widened. Cashin's words finally unlocked a long-buried memory. No wonder she had always felt that Cashin was so familiar. They were elementary school classmates, no, not just elementary school classmates. They had been in the same class since kindergarten and were in the same class in elementary school. But Cashin had moved abroad with his family in the middle of first grade and had never returned. So it was normal for Evelyn not to remember him. Evelyn covered her mouth in surprise. "It was you." Now it was Cashin's turn to be confused. He asked suspiciously, "You didn't know it was me. Then, what were you doing pestering me for the past few months?" "I thought you recognized me and wanted to catch up. So you didn't recognize me? Then what were you doing hovering around me for months?" "I really didn't know. I just thought your name was familiar. As for the past few months, if I said I didn't know what I was doing, would you believe me?" Evelyn's voice grew quieter, and she couldn't help but facepalm at her own explanation. Just think of it as a prank. Cashin fell silent and gave Evelyn a look. Evelyn felt like she could read his mind. "Are you an idiot?" Chapter 29, while waiting for the hot pot broth to boil, Evelyn couldn't help but speak up. "I can't believe the world is so small. For us to meet again here, it's just too much of a coincidence." Cashin nodded. "Yeah, it is quite a coincidence, but I didn't recognize you at first either. After all, it's been so many years. It was only the other day when the professor called your name in class that I realized it was you." Evelyn raised an eyebrow, teasing, "Well, it seems I made a deep impression on you as a child." "How could I not? You were just as persistent back then as you are now, never giving up until you got what you wanted. You're exactly the same." Evelyn stuck out her tongue. Really? She didn't remember much from her childhood, but she vaguely recalled that Cashin used to have a different name. So Evelyn asked, "But, did you change your name? Or am I misremembering? I don't think that was your name before, was it?" Cashin's expression froze for a moment, then he sighed. "Yes, my surname used to be Kensington. I was Cashin Kensington. In first grade, the reason I moved abroad with my family was because my mother's cancer had spread. To give her better treatment, our whole family immigrated so she could get better medical care and extend her life. But things didn't go as planned. A year later, my mother passed away. So to honor her memory, I changed my name after she died and took her surname, Chase." Evelyn's mouth fell open. She hadn't expected such a sad story behind it. It took her a moment to find her voice. She said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring up your painful memories." Cashin forced a smile. "It's okay. It's all in the past, over a decade ago. I just never thought I'd meet an old friend in a foreign country. It's quite strange." "Well, now you have to tell me why you ignored me for the past few months," Evelyn said, feigning anger. Cashin sighed, looking a bit helpless. "Well, it's a long story. I've been starting my own business for the past 2 years. The reason I came here to study is to learn more about finance and management to help me with potential problems in the future. My purpose in coming here was different from others from the start. I wasn't here to network, but because this place has the best teachers. At first, I didn't know who you were. I just thought you were a strange person, so I didn't bother with you. I thought you'd lose interest after a while and stop pestering me. I didn't expect you to be so persistent. Later, I realized you were an old friend from back home, and I was going to tell you. But then, something unexpected came up. Chapter 30, the game project our company was developing had some issues during the beta test, but we couldn't change the launch date. As you can see, I'm in the gaming industry. Game companies have a lot more preparation to do before launch than other companies. And since I'm the founder and the core of the project, I had to spend a lot of time and energy fixing the bugs. That's why you saw me constantly glued to my computer. For the past few months, apart from classes during the day, I've spent almost all my time on the project. I often didn't even have time to eat or sleep, let alone catch up with old friends. And explaining all this to you would have taken a lot of time. It's not that I was ignoring you, I just didn't have the time, and it's not something I could explain in a few words. My plan was to wait for you to get bored and give up. Then, when I finished my work, I would find you and explain. But I didn't expect you to be so persistent and keep it up for months. I'm really impressed. Evelyn had never heard Cashin talk so much at once. After his long explanation, she was a bit dazed. After a moment, Evelyn spoke up. So, you've taken care of all the company matters now? Yeah, I have, Cashin said, raising an eyebrow and teasing. I finished a month earlier than expected. Maybe, because I felt sorry for you talking to yourself every day. Hearing this, Evelyn pretended to hit him, but he dodged with a smile. Evelyn pouted and asked, Cashin, after all this time I've been pestering you, weren't you annoyed? The hot pot was now boiling, bubbling away. The sound was surprisingly soothing. Cashin put some vegetables into the pot and then answered Evelyn, I wasn't annoyed. You didn't do anything out of line. And in the end, it was my fault for ignoring you, right? Hearing Cashin's words, a smile appeared on Evelyn's face. This Cashin, he seemed so indifferent on the surface, but he was actually quite sweet when he spoke. Looking at the bubbling hot pot, Evelyn felt her own heart bubbling like the boiling broth. Evelyn had always believed that hot pot was a meal to be shared only with very close people. Because sharing a pot with someone, if you're not close enough, can be a bit awkward. And people's tastes and eating habits are so different, it's rare to find someone you can eat with. When Evelyn was with the Hawthorns, she and Damien could never eat together. Damien hated spicy food and anything greasy or rich. As for offal, he found it disgusting. But Evelyn, having grown up in the free-spirited environment of the Lancaster family, had eaten at all kinds of restaurants in the capital with her brothers, from grand banquets to humble street stalls. Evelyn could eat anything. As a devoted hot pot lover, tripe, duck intestines, and spicy broth, all the things Damien despised, were Evelyn's favorites. Chapter 30, while at the Hawthorns, Evelyn had to give up her own eating habits to accommodate Damien's. At the time, Evelyn thought that this kind of selfless, all-consuming love would earn her a second glance from Damien. But she never imagined that her dedication and efforts were probably no different from that of a maid in Damien's eyes. Seeing Evelyn lost in thought, Cashin asked, What's wrong? Why are you just staring? Don't you like hot pot anymore? My bad, I should have asked you first instead of just assuming. Hearing Cashin's words, a tear unexpectedly rolled down Evelyn's cheek. Evelyn quickly wiped away the large tear and forced a smile at Cashin. No, I love it. After 3 years of being overlooked at the Hawthorns, suddenly having someone who cared about her preferences, Evelyn would be lying if she said she wasn't moved. In the 6 months since leaving the Hawthorns, Evelyn felt that her once shattered heart was slowly becoming whole again. The old wounds had healed without her realizing it, and she seemed to have returned to the bright, vivacious Lancaster heiress from 3 years ago, as if she had never met Damien. Reuniting with Cashin made Evelyn very happy, but then she remembered that the financial program would be over in, at most, 6 months. And Cashin had already immigrated abroad with his family, but she would definitely be returning to her country after finishing her studies. After all, her brother was waiting for her to take over Apex Conglomerate. The thought of parting in 6 months, and the fact that they would likely never see each other again, made Evelyn's once joyful mood sink. Evelyn felt that she was acting strangely. She wasn't usually the sentimental type, but in front of Cashin, she couldn't help but feel a sense of melancholy. Maybe it was because she didn't want to just pass by such a wonderful person. Seeing Evelyn's lack of enthusiasm, Cashin took the initiative to start a conversation. Have you been doing well all these years? Evelyn poked at the shrimp paste in her bowl and said, I've been doing well, except for a failed marriage, but that's over now. Seeing Cashin's surprised expression, as if he didn't know what to say, Evelyn found it amusing and asked, "What about you? You must be doing well." Evelyn wasn't sure if it was her imagination, but she felt that Cashin was deliberately downplaying his own situation to keep her from dwelling on her sad past. Cashin said with a pained expression, "Me, not so well. I was kicked out by my dad because I insisted on not taking over the family business." "Huh, really?" As expected, Evelyn's attention was immediately drawn to Cashin. "Yeah, not only did he kick me out, but he also confiscated all my assets. My dad said he wanted me to know that without the Kensington family's support, I'm nothing. He said he wanted me to experience the hardships of life, and then I'd come back crawling." Chapter 32. Hearing Cashin's words, Evelyn couldn't help but think of herself 3 years ago. At that time, she had been just as stubborn as Cashin, insisting on going against her family's wishes and leaving her 6 doting brothers. Her brothers had said then that she must have been spoiled by them all these years to do something so rebellious. Those 3 years at the Hawthorns were the first time Evelyn had been away from home for so long. Now, hearing Cashin's story, Evelyn couldn't help but be reminded of her past self. But looking back now, her love-struck self was indeed a bit foolish. So Evelyn asked, "I didn't know Uncle Kensington was so strict. When did you leave the Kensington family? How have you been? Do you need me to help you out?" Hearing this, Cashin looked unconcerned. "About 2 years ago. Luckily, I had some personal savings. After leaving home, I started a studio with a few like-minded friends, and we've been working on it ever since. At first, we made money by taking on orders from other companies, but after a while, we didn't want to work for others anymore. So, we decided to make our own game. At first, we couldn't get any investment, so we pooled our savings and created a basic framework. The other people in our company are very skilled, so after we had a framework, we started to get some investment. And now, the software we made is going to be launched in a month. You can download it and play it then." "Okay, I'll definitely support you then," Evelyn said, raising her glass to Cashin. "When your game is launched, I'll treat you to dinner. Here's to your game being a huge success." After dinner, Cashin walked Evelyn to her doorstep. Just as Cashin was about to leave, Evelyn called out to him, "Hey, Cashin, wait." Evelyn ran up to him, took out her phone, fiddled with it for a moment, and then showed him a QR code. "Here, let's add each other on WeChat." After exchanging contacts, Evelyn was overjoyed. She hummed a little tune as she opened her door, but as soon as she stepped inside, she saw Miles standing there with his arms crossed, a scrutinizing look on his face, staring at her. Evelyn was startled and took a step back. When she saw it was Miles, she calmed herself down. Evelyn complained, "Little bro, why are you standing here like a ghost, not making a sound? You scared me to death. Who was the man who just brought you home?" Miles had just come out for a glass of water when he saw Evelyn saying goodbye to a strange man through the window. Miles stared at Evelyn, not wanting to miss a single expression. Evelyn pushed Miles aside, changed her shoes, and walked into the living room, saying, "Oh, little bro, don't look at me like that, as if I've done something wrong." The person just now was Cashin Chase, the one you couldn't find any information on when I asked you to check a while ago. I only found out today that we actually knew each other as children. He just moved here with his family in 1st grade. Chapter 33. Little bro, did you know? Cashin is actually Uncle Kensington's son. No wonder I found him so familiar. That explains why you couldn't find any information on him. After all, the Kensington family is so well established, it's normal for them to have some skilled people. Miles was shocked. So his guess was right. Cashin was indeed Uncle Kensington's son. That would explain why he had the surname Chase. Evelyn didn't give Miles a chance to speak, continuing on excitedly. "Little bro, let me tell you, Cashin told me he was kicked out of the Kensington family because he didn't want to inherit the family business. Little bro, you know what? I suddenly feel like he's a lot like me. 3 years ago, I was just as stubborn, going against all of you. But Cashin is much stronger than me. He did it to pursue his dream, while I was chasing a love with no end in sight. Little bro, do you think Cashin?" Little 7 Miles, who had been silent for a while, suddenly interrupted her. Evelyn stopped her rambling, looking at Miles with a puzzled and innocent expression. "Little bro, what's wrong?" Miles said, word for word. Little Seven, you like him, don't you? Although he used a question, his tone was almost curt. He knew his sister too well. As the brother closest in age to Evelyn among the 7 siblings, Miles had spent the most time with her. And Miles and Evelyn's personalities were the most similar and compatible. They clicked instantly. It was no exaggeration to say that Miles knew what Evelyn wanted with just a look. Now, seeing Evelyn's radiant face, her eyes shining when she talked about another man, Miles knew that Evelyn must like this man named Cassian Chase. After all, when Evelyn liked someone, it was as obvious as it could be. Miles's question completely stumped Evelyn. Evelyn was speechless because she had never considered this question before. Miles's question was a wake-up call for her. Did she like Cassian? Evelyn thought about this question for a long time, so long that Miles thought she wouldn't answer and was about to turn away. Then Evelyn's voice sounded very softly behind him. Little bro, I do like him. But little bro, don't worry, I won't make the same mistake again. Hearing Evelyn's answer, Miles said nothing, just sighed heavily. His sister, why did she have so many romantic entanglements? Chapter 30, the night was late, but Evelyn was still wide awake, staring blankly. Evelyn thought, whether it was the unexpected familiarity, the inexplicable persistence of the past few months, or the joy of reunion, all these complex feelings were telling her that she had indeed fallen for Cassian. But what did she like about him? Evelyn didn't know herself. Perhaps it was his unwavering principles, his striking appearance, or his thoughtful way of treating people. But Evelyn had had such a terrible romantic experience before. Now, she no longer had the reckless courage of 3 years ago. It was impossible to say she wasn't afraid of being hurt again. Evelyn was sleepless all night, and the next morning, she was greeted by 2 huge dark circles under her eyes. Her appearance startled Miles. Wow, little Seven, are you cosplaying a panda? Your dark circles are almost down to the floor. Little bro, it's all your fault for asking me that question last night. It kept me up all night. Miles was at a loss for words. I was just asking casually. I didn't know you'd take it so seriously that you couldn't sleep. Evelyn pretended to be angry and turned her face away. I look like this, I can't even go out in public. Miles handed her a freshly brewed coffee and asked, so, what was it that kept you up all night? Did you find an answer? Evelyn sighed, a rare occurrence for her. It's because I didn't, that's why I tossed and turned all night. Miles put down his cup, his tone uncharacteristically serious. Little Seven, all that is past is prologue. I hope that no matter what, you will never lack the courage to start over. Evelyn was taken aback by his words, then nodded. I know, little bro. From then on, Evelyn and Cassian grew closer. Evelyn also moved from the seat in front of Cassian to the one next to him. Their classmates were surprised. Had the unapproachable loner Cassian Chase had a change of heart? Even Amanda came to congratulate Evelyn on her successful pursuit of love. Evelyn quickly explained, What are you talking about, Amanda? Don't be ridiculous. I just suddenly found out that Cassian is a childhood friend of mine. Amanda was also surprised and thought they were really fated. At the same time, Amanda told Evelyn something else. Evelyn, I forgot to tell you, you were sick one day and didn't come to class, remember? I went to the professor's office to hand in my homework that day and saw Cassian there. I waited outside for a while, planning to go in after he left. But then, I heard Cassian ask the professor why you weren't in class that day. Chapter 35. I thought I had misheard. I never thought Cassian, who seems so cold, was actually the quiet, passionate type. He usually treats you like you're invisible, but when you're not around, he actually goes to check on you. Amazing. Evelyn, do you think Cassian likes you? Evelyn didn't know if Cassian liked her. But what Evelyn did know was that whether her feelings for Cassian were one-sided or mutual, they had no future. After all, the distance between them, though not one of social status, was an undeniable obstacle. She had to return to her country, but Cassian's home was here. How could they have a future together? So, this time, Evelyn chose to keep her feelings to herself. Instead of letting their feelings be worn down by a long-distance relationship, it was better to let things stop at their best, which meant not starting at all. After Cassian's company's game was launched, it was a huge success, even going viral on TikTok and attracting a large number of new users. As a result, Cassian was once again swamped with work, busy expanding the company's capacity. Seeing Cassion's product do so well, Evelyn was very happy for him. But Cassion was so busy that they never got to have the dinner they had planned for after his game's launch. Time flew by, and soon it was the end of the year, and Evelyn's return to her country was drawing near. The atmosphere in the class had been a bit somber lately. Parting was imminent, and the students came from all over the world. After this, some of them might never see each other again. After a year of being together, from strangers to now, everyone felt a bit reluctant to part. Recently, Amanda had been clinging to Evelyn, seemingly unwilling to say goodbye. "Evelyn, when you go back to Z Country, you have to keep in touch with me. Don't forget me. I'll come to Z Country to see you." After a year, Amanda had become Evelyn's best friend in the class. Seeing her like this, Evelyn also felt a bit sad. She wiped away Amanda's tears and said, "Okay, I'll come here to see you often too." Lately, Cassion had been so busy that he hadn't been to school for several days. According to Professor Smith, Cassion had earned the qualification to graduate early due to his excellent grades. Plus, he was busy with his company, so he had simply stopped coming to class. As Evelyn's friend, Amanda knew a thing or two about her and Cassion. She looked at Evelyn with a worried expression. "Evelyn, are you really not going to tell him about your feelings? Won't you regret it?" Evelyn smiled and shook her head. "No, let's just leave things as they are." Chapter 36. The day Evelyn was to return to her country, it was deep winter. Heavy snow was falling from the sky, and their flight was delayed due to the blizzard. Evelyn watched the vast expanse of snow, her heart surprisingly calm. What was meant to be would be. At the airport, Amanda was crying her eyes out, hugging Evelyn tightly. Seeing Amanda so upset, Evelyn couldn't help but smile. "All right, Amanda, don't cry. You're crying so much, anyone would think I was dying." Evelyn patted Amanda's back comfortingly, while occasionally glancing towards the airport entrance. But the person she wanted to see never appeared. The blizzard finally stopped, and the airport broadcast announced that it was time to board. Seeing that the familiar figure still hadn't appeared at the entrance, Evelyn lowered her head, her heart sinking. But when she looked up again, a smile was back on her face. Evelyn gave Amanda one last, tight hug. "Amanda, I'm leaving. I'll miss you." Then, Evelyn and Miles disappeared down the jet bridge. Evelyn, who usually slept soundly on planes, now looked out at the clear blue sky, her heart filled with 1,000 sorrows. Was this the end for her and Cassion? Separated by 3 time zones, a 6-hour flight, and an ocean with no visible shore, there was no longer any possibility. As soon as she got off the plane, Evelyn saw her other 4 brothers, whom she hadn't seen in a long time. Her second brother, Ethan, pinched her cheek. "What's this, little 7, how did you get so thin again? Did Miles mistreat you?" Miles quickly said. "Second brother, it's not my fault. I've been treating this little princess like royalty every day." Evelyn also smiled. "Second brother, it's not his fault. Maybe I've been studying too hard." Her brothers had prepared a welcome home feast for her and Miles. During their after-dinner chat, Evelyn took the initiative to say to Alistair, "Big bro, I'll start work at Apex Conglomerate in a couple of days." Alistair was surprised. Why not rest for a few more days? So eager to work? Evelyn shook her head. No need to rest. She had rested long enough. Evelyn thought that she needed to find something to do to numb herself, otherwise her thoughts would inevitably drift to Cassion. Alistair, though surprised, had no objections and just nodded thoughtfully. 3 days later, Evelyn woke up early, ready to go to work with Alistair. At Apex Conglomerate, Alistair led Evelyn to a brand new office on the top floor. Alistair opened the door and made a pleased gesture. "Little 7, I've had this office ready for you for a long time." Evelyn looked around. It was decorated in her favorite style. "Thank you, big bro. You've worked so hard for me all these years." Alistair ruffled her hair. "By the way, I have to go out for a bit. There's a client coming later. I need you to meet them." When it came to work, Evelyn's expression turned serious. "Okay, is it about a partnership?" "Yes. A popular gaming company from abroad is looking to enter the domestic market. I reached a preliminary agreement with them a while ago. They're coming today to discuss the details. Miss Chen knows the specifics. She's in charge of this. You just need to supervise from the side." A gaming company. Evelyn was a bit dazed, but she still nodded. "Okay, I understand." After tidying up her desk for a while, Evelyn sat there, waiting for the client. She looked up at the clock on the wall. It was 15 minutes before the scheduled 10 o'clock meeting. Evelyn couldn't help but wonder what Cashin was doing abroad at this time. Just as she was lost in thought, there were 3 rhythmic knocks on the office door. Evelyn snapped back to reality and cleared her throat. "Come in." The man who walked in was tall and handsome, with a smile playing on his lips. He said, "Evelyn Lancaster, long time no see." Chapter 37. Evelyn's eyes widened in disbelief. The person she had been thinking about just a second ago was now standing right in front of her. Was she seeing things? Evelyn rubbed her eyes, and when she opened them again, she saw that it was indeed Cashin standing before her. The emotions she had suppressed for months burst forth. Evelyn ran to Cashin and threw herself into his arms. Tears were already streaming down her face, and her voice was thick with emotion. "What are you doing here?" Her pent-up feelings came pouring out like a flood, along with a torrent of questions. "I sent you messages, but you never replied. Do you know how angry I was? Why didn't you come to see me off when I left? Do you know I waited for you at the airport for so long? I thought I'd never see you again." "Cashin, are you the client my brother was talking about? The gaming company from abroad? Is that you came back to the country and didn't even tell me?" Cashin gently stroked her back, comforting her. He found her chattering endearing and couldn't help but laugh. Hugging Cashin, Evelyn felt the vibration in his chest. She straightened up abruptly, wiped away her tears haphazardly, looking like a fluffed-up kitten. "What are you laughing at? Stop laughing, answer my questions." Cashin held her face in his hands, gently wiping away her tears with a pained expression. His voice was soft. "Evelyn, you have so many questions. Which one should I answer first? Doesn't the fact that I'm standing here now answer everything?" Cashin's words threw Evelyn's heart into a flutter. She sniffled, took a few steps back, and continued to ask, "Then, tell me, are you the client my brother was talking about?" "Yes. The popularity of our company's game far exceeded my expectations, so I decided to expand into the domestic market and open a branch here." Evelyn blinked, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Cashin. "So you..." Cashin sighed with a hint of helplessness and pulled her into his arms again. "What I mean is, I'll be staying in the country from now on. Lynn, I'm not leaving again." "Really? You're not leaving again?" Evelyn was overjoyed. Did that mean the obstacles that had stood between them were gone? Just as Evelyn was hesitating whether to confess her feelings to Cashin, his voice sounded above her head. "Lynn, I like you. Be with me, okay?" Evelyn pulled away from his embrace, her face flushed red. "Okay, I will." Chapter 38. In the conference room of Apex Conglomerate, Cashin's team was presenting the project details, and Miss Chen from the president's office was listening attentively. Evelyn, on the other hand, was trying to listen, but found it hard to concentrate under Cashin's watchful gaze. She felt like she was in a dream. Just an hour ago, she was wallowing in self-pity, and now she was with the person she liked. The partnership negotiations went smoothly. After Evelyn proposed some additional clauses to the contract and both parties agreed, she signed her name with a flourish. When it was time for Cashin to leave, Evelyn was reluctant to let him go. Cashin squeezed her hand and said, "Work hard, I'll pick you up after work." Evelyn nodded obediently and watched him leave. After months of gloom, her mood was finally bright again. She felt light and cheerful, and her work efficiency soared throughout the day. At 5 o'clock, Evelyn left work on time. As soon as she got downstairs, she saw Cashin waiting for her with a bouquet of flowers. She threw herself into his arms, and they left together, neither of them noticing a familiar figure sitting in a black luxury car parked by the road. And that familiar figure was none other than Damien Hawthorne, who had been out of sight for a long time sitting in the driver's seat. Damien watched the intimate couple, a fire burning in his heart. He gripped the steering wheel tightly, wanting to rush over and declare his ownership, to tell that stranger that Evelyn was his wife, his love. But he didn't have the courage. He had long since lost the right to be so brazen with Evelyn. Evelyn had once loved him to death, and her tolerance for him was all out of love. But now, it was clear that Evelyn had a new life. And the happy expression on her face was something she had never shown him. In that case, what right did he have to seek her forgiveness? His belated love was perhaps the best punishment for him. The pain of loving someone you can't have, Damien was now tasting it himself. After the scandal a year ago, the Hawthorne Group had started to decline. Coupled with the overt and covert pressure from the Lancaster group, the Hawthorne group was now on its last legs. But none of this had anything to do with Evelyn anymore. All the bitter consequences Damien was now facing were the result of the seeds he had sown 3 years ago. After a satisfying meal, Evelyn and Cashin walked hand in hand along the riverbank, like any ordinary couple. The early spring night was cool, but watching the man in front of her meticulously wrap a scarf around her neck, Evelyn felt nothing but warmth. Cashin, afraid that Evelyn would catch a cold, had wrapped the scarf around her neck several times. Evelyn stared at the man in front of her without a word, feeling an immense sense of security. She took his hand, stood on her tiptoes, and gently kissed his lips. As their lips and tongues intertwined, Evelyn whispered, "Cashin, I love you." Cashin smiled and rested his forehead against hers. "Lynn, I love you too." Evelyn closed her eyes, feeling happier than she had ever been. She wanted to be grateful for their meeting, for their experiences, and for their reunion. She was grateful that when he arrived, the stars shone brightly, illuminating her entire night. The end.